Chapter 700. Happy. Dong Huang Baiji was puzzled. How can I make Yihua happy? A second later, Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji took a look at each other. To make Yihua happy, there seems to be only one way. Right now, Yihua was sitting cross-legged in his bedroom. Perhaps it was because he hadn't cultivated for a long time. He was unable to calm down. When he thought of the arrogant tone of the white bones, his lungs were about to explode from anger. One of Nan Wuxi's underlings actually dared to be arrogant in front of me, and I can't do anything to him at all. This won't do. I must calm down and start cultivating. I must not be disturbed by the outside world. I must insta-kill you all and make you all tremble under my power. Just like this, no one is allowed to disturb my cultivation. Cultivation will make me happy. Cultivation will make me happy. Cultivation will make me happy. Just as Yihua was hypnotizing himself, two beautiful figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Looking at Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji, Yihua's firm face stiffened. Even though he often sees the two of them, he couldn't help but respect them right now. Qing Ya could be seen wearing a black spaghetti top. Her long and beautiful legs were wrapped by lace stockings. Her skirt was already as low as it could get, and there was a black unknown fabric covering her bra. Her flat lower abdomen did not have the slightest bit of fat, and coupled with that beautiful face of hers, any man would definitely explode, including me. And the Empress was actually wearing a set of white spaghetti top for the first time. Different from Qing Ya's black spaghetti top, what the Empress was wearing was a pair of white silk stockings with a net, which was even more explosive. The lace small skirt would occasionally sway, and even Yihua's heart would sway. The Empress's chest was the kind that was extremely full, and Yihua often couldn't bear to part with it. And today, the Empress had specially wrapped her chest up, and this was simply a visual impact. Yihua had never seen the two of them dressed like this before. It wasn't that I didn't request to dress like this before, but rather, all of my requests were rejected. In the past, you were unwilling to dress like this, but today, when I started cultivating, I came. You two are going against me, right? Do you think that I will give up cultivating just because you are dressed like this? That's impossible. Just as Yihua was determined in his heart, the Empress took out a steel pipe from God knows where and directly inserted it into the ground. This caused Yihua's heart to skip a beat. Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji could be seen lightly stroking the big and thick steel pipe. This scene caused Yihua to feel like he was about to explode as he gulped down his saliva. Yihua, Qing Ya shouted out tenderly. Her charming eyes were like silk, and she even stuck out her tongue to lick the corner of her mouth. The Empress twisted her body slightly, and bit her lower lip lightly. Her slender legs were wrapped around the steel pipe. Why did I suddenly want to be that steel pipe? Dong Huang Baiji let out her alluring voice. Yihua, what are you sitting there for? Aren't you going to come over? Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji didn't know that their husband was planning to cultivate at all, and they thought that their husband was just feeling unhappy, and that's why they were thinking of ways to make their husband happy. If they knew that Yihua was cultivating, they definitely wouldn't have come to disturb him. Looking at how his two wives were acting, Yihua was struggling in his heart. They still needed to cultivate. I am a man. Moreover, it was a man who was determined to cultivate. To go and cultivate, or to roll in bed with my wives. If I were to get killed by someone one day, it would all be their fault. To do such a thing while I am cultivating, these two truly are vixens. Yihua could be seen walking straight towards the two wives, then carrying them into his embrace, then walking towards the bed. A storm of blood suddenly erupted. Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji were especially attentive, and they were doing their best to make their husband happy. Today, when they saw the disappointed look on their husband's face, their hearts ached endlessly, and they hoped that doing so would be able to alleviate their husband's mood. Speaking of which, it was quite effective, just that it took a bit too long. 3 days passed by very quickly. Voidless Realms morning was still so comfortable. God Yi and Yi Lu fought with each other every day, while Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan sat at the side and watched. Yi Yan rubbed his swollen eyes. It has already been 3 days, and father and mother still haven't come out yet. Are they cultivating? They should be. Dong Huang Li laid on the table and seemed very bored. I heard that father encountered some difficulties. Yi Yan said sneakily. The children still didn't know about this matter. The news was sealed, and Dou Fusher was also tight-lipped. Dong Huangli hammered onto the stone table with her small fists. We are still too young. Father and mother don't want us to know too much. That's right, I really hope that I can grow up faster so that I can help father. Yi Yan really hopes that he can grow up faster. When the time comes, he will be able to help his father fight for the world. Rumble. Yi Yan rubbed onto his stomach embarrassedly. Dong Huangli patted onto her little brother's shoulder. You should eat your fill first before you grow up. The food that aunt cooks is so disgusting. Yi Yan said in pain. For the past 3 days, the little fellow had been eating at Qing Yutong's place. Qing Yutong didn't know how to cook at all, and thus, the little fellow could only take out a tablet and learn how to cook. After getting used to eating the food that their mother cooks, the 4 little fellows' mouths had all become picky, which was why such a situation occurred. All right, Aunt has been very tired these past few days. You have to understand Aunt. Dong Huangli said helplessly. Looking at the time, Dong Huangli stood up and shouted out, Everyone, stop for a moment, let's go and eat first. God Yi and Yi Lu's little faces froze, then they squeezed out a smile and said, Sister brother, you guys go ahead. We're not hungry. Yes, I'll practice with big brother a little more, Yi Lu said seriously. Eating was out of the question. Dong Huangli walked forward, then directly held onto her younger brother and younger sister's wrists. We are brothers and sisters, we have to face difficulties together. If you want to run away, don't even think about it. Big sister. Sister, Dong Huangli didn't care about all that, and she directly pulled Qing Yutong into Qing Yutong's bedroom. However, as soon as they stepped through the door, the little fellows smelled a fragrant aroma. A sumptuous breakfast was laid out on the table. There were all kinds of dishes, such as steamed buns, fried dough sticks, millet porridge, and even rice noodles with beef. Qing Yutong sat at the side with a smile on her face. The food that I make is not delicious, and furthermore, it is a waste of time, so I might as well go out and buy it back. Isn't that much easier? Little fellows, quickly come and eat breakfast. Qing Yutong lightly smiled and said. With a puzzled expression on their faces, the 4 little fellows sat on the stool, and the smell that was being emitted from the food was causing their stomachs to call out. All right, Aunt doesn't have that many rules here, quickly eat. Thank you, Aunt. The 4 little fellows shouted out in unison, then began crazily picking up the food on the table and eating ferociously. While eating, Qing Yutong shouted out, It's so fragrant. Looking at the 4 little fellows wolfing down the food, Qing Yutong let out a breath. In the future, I can only do this the food that I make. Chapter 701. On the other side, Yi Hua had also woken up, and a happy smile could be seen on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. These few days, my wives have served me very well, and they have satisfied all of my requests. Damn it, I really need to thank Nan Wuqi. Baiji, wake up. Today, we are going to go and experience Nan Wuqi's strength. Yi Hua retracted the smile on the corner of his mouth, and his voice suddenly became cold. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji didn't even feel like moving anymore. She didn't even have the strength to move her fingers. Let me sleep for another 5 minutes. I don't feel like moving anymore. Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly. In any case, it is still early, we can still continue. Yi Hua said faintly. The Empress instantly opened her eyes in shock. When she saw the naughty smile on her husband's face, she smacked him in exasperation. You're so annoying, you're lying to me again. Then I won't lie to you. After finished speaking, Yi Hua carried the Empress into his embrace. I'll rise, okay? Please spare me. The Empress couldn't take it anymore. However, when she saw that her husband had returned to his original state, she felt that it was still worth it. However, she and Qingya had become half-dead tired. Yi Hua was just joking with Dong Huang Baiji. I have something important to do today, and I have to let this Nan Wuqi have a taste of my strength. Qingya was already tired to the point that she didn't want to open her eyes anymore. However, she still said, You all be careful, I will be watching over Voidless Realm. Yi Hua kissed onto Qingya's forehead, then said lightly, Have a good rest, I will come back to accompany you tonight. And Qingya responded tenderly, then continued to sleep. So sleepy Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji were also going out in splendid attire today. In the past, Yi Hua would basically always wear a black suit, which made him appear calm. However, Yi Hua, who was in a good mood today, wore a white suit. Dong Huangbaiji was still dressed up as an empress, appearing very dignified and dignified. Looking at her husband's white suit, Empress was mesmerized. My husband is so handsome. You only found out today? Yi Hua laughed lightly, then hugged onto the Empress's willow waist. Then, husband, can I kiss you? Dong Huangbaiji asked with a smile. You have my permission. Dong Huangbaiji smiled as she wrapped her arms around Yi Hua's neck and kissed him. As for kissing, it was a daily habit for the husband and wife. It was as if they were in love every day, enjoying it so much that they forgot about their duties. All right, I'll let you kiss me again when we return tonight. Dong Huangbaiji lightly pushed her husband away and said sweetly. Yi Hua laughed helplessly. These two women really like to whet my appetite, and they are able to succeed every single time. Interesting. However, recently, I have been neglecting my sister-in-law. One day, I will have to find some time to satisfy my sister-in-law's needs. Recently, I have also been training my hand speed, and I will definitely be able to reach the pinnacle of vibrations. The two of them immediately disappeared from the room and arrived at Leisure Bar. Yi Zizi, Lai Gu, and Death Mage were already waiting for them. Subordinates pay respect to your honor and your madam. The three of them shouted out respectfully. Yi Hua nodded his head. Today, Yi Zizi was wearing a green princess dress, and she looked very cute. Lai Gu was dressed in a red suit, which gave off a bit of a festive feeling. As for Death Mage, he was still dressed in the same black gown as before, and he was holding on to that death scythe. As for why Yi Hua wanted to bring Death Mage over, it was because Yi Hua approved of Death Mage. After all, Death Mage was different from the Green and Red brothers. He had very good battle experience. It is still early now, let's go out and eat breakfast. Yi Hua could be seen that the blood demon had already prepared breakfast and walked out. Your Honor, I knew that you were coming over today, thus I had already prepared breakfast. Yi Hua was very gratified. This blood demon is still very sensible. I really didn't have to worry too much. While eating breakfast, Yi Hua said lightly, Today, we are mainly going to test out the other party's strength. Aren't you going to kill them? Yi Zizi asked curiously. Yi Zizi, are you able to kill that white bones? Yi Hua asked indifferently. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth, seemingly unable to do anything to the white bones. After pausing for a moment, Yi Hua continued, No matter what, they are still outsiders. I will give them a chance to admit their mistake. Lai Gu agreed with what his honor said. In the past, his honor didn't kill outsiders, and even if he did kill outsiders, it would be those who didn't want to live anymore. The Empress who was sitting beside Yi Hua was a bit puzzled. Why doesn't Yi Hua kill outsiders? In actuality, Yi Hua wanted to figure out the weaknesses of the outsiders first. As long as I find out the weaknesses of the outsiders, things would be much easier. Remember, you must definitely force them to use their strongest strength. Do not let them hold anything back. I am very curious. Just how strong are the experts from the ancient era? This was Yi Hua's true goal. This could be used as a reference to compare the strength of the outsiders. Yes. The three immediately answered. In Nanwu Banner. Under the sunlight, the luxurious palace on the top floor was emitting out a golden radiance, and the palace appeared to be very lofty. Within one of the luxurious rooms, Kai Yun was currently hugging onto Yu Hua and sleeping soundly. Kai Yun looked just like a child who was snuggling into his mother's embrace. Yu Hua had already woken up, and she was lightly caressing the Flagmaster's hair. Flagmaster, time to wake up. Yu Hua shouted out tenderly. Looking at the Flagmaster who was acting coquettishly and lazing in bed, Yu Hua revealed out a warm smile. Flagmaster, there are guests coming to visit us today, you have to make some preparations. Kai Yun buried his head into Yu Hua's chest. I don't want to see them, I want to sleep. Flagmaster, this is your own request, only children would lie. Yu Hua said helplessly. The Flagmaster needs to be coaxed, and only I am able to coax her. I'm not a child. Kai Yun opened his eyes and said angrily. Flagmaster, then why are you still lazing in bed? All right, I'll get up all right, you're so annoying. Looking at the gloomy expression on the Flagmaster's face, Yu Hua couldn't help but kiss the Flagmaster. The Flagmaster immediately smiled. She was the kind of person who would laugh when coaxed. The two finished changing their clothes, then walked out of the luxurious room. Kai Yun yawned then asked, "Is the food prepared?" Yu Hua nodded her head. "Luo Ho is prepared, it's Sichuan flavor." Sichuan flavor? It's pretty good. At this moment, White Bones said respectfully, "Flag Master, Lucifer has brought a subordinate down." "He came so early, Yu Hua. Take a look at my face, is it all right?" Girls all wanted to be beautiful, and Kai Yun was no exception. Flag Master's beauty is unparalleled. Yu Hua bowed slightly, incomparably respectful. "And let's go and welcome the guests." Kai Yun was very happy upon hearing that. On the stairs, Lucifer was walking on the stairs with Mir. Why didn't he just fly up? That was because he didn't dare to do that. After all, if he did that, it would be a form of disrespect towards others. This Nanwuchi is too powerful. Lucifer didn't dare to easily offend Nanwuchi, and thus, he could only bring Mir up the stairs. Chapter 702. At this time, a helicopter flew over from afar, reporting the situation of Nanwuchi as usual. "I don't know what the higher-ups are thinking. Nanwuchi hasn't done anything yet we're here to take a look." A tall beauty next to him smiled and said, "It's work after all. It's not easy. Anyway, we'll go back after one round. But it's also dangerous. Who knows what these people are thinking? If they lose the game, what if they vent their anger on us?" The man said helplessly, "When I was playing games, I had already killed people. Let alone these weirdos." The beauty was amused and said, "How could such a powerful person play games? You're thinking too much. Who knows? I heard that the more powerful a person is, the weirder they are." "We're almost there," the pilot shouted. The two of them looked at Nanwuchi, who was not far away from them. Although they could see it every day, every time they saw it, they would feel the urge to worship it. That tall staircase, that dazzling golden hole, it exuded a surging prestige. There are two people on the stairs. As the helicopter got closer, the beauty cried out in surprise. The man also looked over. There were indeed two people. Judging from his attire, he didn't look like an ordinary person. "Come closer, we're going to film." The man asked the driver to come closer so that he could film. The beautiful lady at the side took a look at her makeup, then picked up the microphone and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now reporting from Nanwuchi." Nanwuchi, which has been quiet for a few months, suddenly had an unusual situation today. There are two mysterious foreign men on the stairs, and they seem to be planning to go to Nanwuchi. What are they going to do? Please stay tuned for our next report. "Lord Lucifer, do you want me to clean them up?" Mill asked coldly. These people really didn't know what was good for them. "How dare you disturb Lord Lucifer?" Lucifer's face darkened. He really wanted to shoot the helicopter down, but this was South No Flag's territory. Doing so would be disrespectful to them. "Forget it," Lucifer said in a deep voice. Mir was slightly dazed for a moment before he respectfully replied, "Yes." Not long after, the two of them reached the top and were overwhelmed by the luxurious palace in front of them. The two huge Lingnan wood doors slowly opened, emitting a dull sound. Kai Yun walked out with a smile on his face, followed by 5 flags. This was Kai Yun's first appearance in the outside world. Lucifer looked at this little girl, and his expression was slightly alarmed. Was this the flag master? Standing behind Lucifer's avatar, Miller lowered his head subconsciously. The people on the helicopter were also stunned. Was this the legendary flag leader? She turned out to be an underage girl. From her appearance, she looked like a well-behaved girl. She even skipped and skipped as she walked. It refreshed everyone's understanding of the big shots. "Maybe they really know how to play games," the man murmured as he carried the camera. The picture here was quickly transmitted to the studio, and the studio soon carried out a live broadcast. The scene was broadcasted to every television. Kai Yun's face also appeared in the bustling plaza. Everyone stopped in their tracks and raised their heads slightly to look at the large screen. This is the banner master of Nanwu Banner? I had thought that it would be a very powerful character, didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to be a girl. Who are these two foreigners? It looks like Nanwuchi is welcoming them. Welcome. Are you blind? These two foreigners are about to be scared to death. Indeed, right now, Lucifer and Miller were very panicked. They felt that the scary white bones was just at the side, and he could kill them at any moment. And there was nothing that they could do. Yuhua, who was standing at the back, took a step forward and said with a slight smile, "Welcome to Nanwu Banner as guests, the flagmaster is very happy." Lucifer learned from the customs here, cupped his hands and said, "Nanwu Banner's grandeur is indeed extraordinary, this trip was not made in vain. The two of you can take a seat. There are still people that are coming over." Yuhua lightly waved her hand, and one table after another was placed on the stairs at the center of the plaza. Kai Yun happily sat down first, then looked at Lucifer and shouted, "Quickly come and sit, don't just stand there." Oh, okay. Lucifer's speech was a bit unclear. Just who is this flagmaster? Up until now, I still can't figure her out. I feel that she looks very innocent on the outside, but in her heart, there is a demon. Furthermore, it's the terrifying kind. After such a scene appeared, a lot of people realized that this dinner was actually hosted by Nanwu Banner. Looking at the two tables that were at the side, everyone started guessing who else was going to be there. They all felt that Voidless Realm was one of them, because that foreigner should be representing a power, and Voidless Realm just so happened to be representing the entire cultivation world. Suddenly, 3 figures appeared, and when these 3 figures appeared, everyone seemed to have let out a hiss. These 3 people were, of course, Miyamoto Nagata, Ishida Hikaru, and Nakata Genta. The 3 people were wearing traditional kimono, white socks, wooden clogs, and pigtails. The 3 people walked over with small steps and respectfully stood in front of Kai Yun, placed both of their hands on the outside of their thighs, then made a 90 degrees bow, looking incomparably pious. "Greetings, Flagmaster." Miyamoto Nagata and the other 2 shouted out in unison. However, this humble appearance of theirs made everyone sigh and speechless. Even Lucifer didn't act like this just now. This is truly a loss of face. However, Miyamoto Nagata didn't feel that it was a loss of face at all. On the contrary, he felt that it was an unparalleled honor to be able to eat here. In the entire world, I am still invited by Nameless Banner. Who else could it be? You all quickly take a seat. The meal is going to start soon. Kai Yun shouted happily, not having the slightest bit of arrogance as a flagmaster. This made Miyamoto Nagata feel slightly at ease. I'm afraid that this flagmaster is a homicidal maniac. If that were to happen, things would be bad. Thank you, Flagmaster, for your hospitality. Miyamoto Nagata said respectfully, then brought his 2 subordinates to sit at the side. Just that, his 2 subordinates were standing, and they didn't have the qualifications to sit at the side. As for the last seat, everyone was guessing in their hearts. Just who is it? Is it Voidless Realm? However, right now, they can't even see the shadow of Voidless Realm. Kai Yun was originally still smiling, but as time passed, his face gradually became covered with frost. At this moment, Miyamoto Nagata hurriedly asked, "Flagmaster, who are you waiting for?" Kai Yun was puzzled for a moment, then immediately asked towards the white bones behind him, "Who are we waiting for?" It seems like I don't even know who I'm waiting for. However, no matter who I'm waiting for, Kai Yun is very angry. To actually make me, the Flagmaster, wait for someone. This is simply too outrageous. Replying to Flagmaster, we are still lacking Voidless Realm. White Bone's voice rang out in the air. This unique voice. How could Lucifer and Miyamoto Nagata forget about it? It was precisely that terrifying White Bones. Chapter 703. This Voidless Realm is indeed despicable. To actually not put Flagmaster in their eyes. Miyamoto Shotai hurriedly said, pulling the hatred between them to the maximum. Needless to say, it was very effective. Kai Yun's face immediately became even more gloomy. To actually not put me, South Wuxia, in their eyes. Such guts. Looking at Kai Yun's indignant face, Miyamoto Shotai felt very proud. No matter what, this grudge between them is already formed. It's best if both sides fight to the death. Then I'll be able to pick up the scraps. Awesome. The helicopter hovering in the sky couldn't hear what they were talking about, but that Flagmaster's expression didn't seem very good. Adding on the empty seat, it wasn't hard to guess that it should be because of someone who was late? If it's really Voidless Realm, then something bad should have happened. Wuxia, who was sitting behind Kai Yun, had a gloomy expression. This Voidless Realm is actually acting like a big shot and being late. They are really tired of living. Just when everyone thought that Voidless Realms people wouldn't come, a strange scene actually appeared in the clouds. A 5-colored auspicious cloud slowly floated over. Such a beautiful scene stunned everyone. That cloud was like cotton candy. I really want to take a bite of it. Kai Yun's gaze gradually became serious, because that 5-colored auspicious cloud was a type of illusion. Inside the 5-colored auspicious cloud, it was a truly powerful existence. Suddenly, an enormous foot stretched out from the 5-colored auspicious cloud. When the foot stepped on the sky, a powerful aura immediately exploded out. Just the size of this foot alone was enough to make people speechless. At the very least, it was as big as the entire South Wuxia realm, and it was filled with an aura of vicissitudes. Boom! Another foot suddenly stepped out, and the entire sky seemed to be trembling. A terrifying aura immediately rushed towards South Wuxia. Lucifer and Miyamoto Shotai's expression became alarmed. This aura is too terrifying. Could this be Voidless Realm's trump card? As expected, I still underestimated Voidless Realm, and looking at the situation, Voidless Realm is here to cause trouble. That's right, Yi Hua is here to cause trouble, and he purposely chose to appear when the other party is furious. Kai Yun's stiff expression gradually relaxed, and a smile even appeared on his face. This Voidless Realm is a bit interesting. Flagmaster, this should be an ancient divine beast. Luo Ho, who was sitting behind Kai Yun, said lightly. Kai Yun nodded. It's a black tortoise. Judging from the expressions of the people from South Wuxia, they did not seem to be afraid. They were just amazed. This Voidless Realm is actually able to call over the ancient divine beast, Black Tortoise, to help them out. Not bad at all. The huge body broke through the clouds and appeared before the eyes of the world. Ayo! The Black Tortoise let out a loud roar that pierced through heaven and earth. The helicopter next to it was instantly affected, causing it to stall. It swayed left and right as it descended. Fortunately, the pilot was an experienced driver. He pulled the helicopter up, but he didn't dare to go back. This was no different from courting death. Without the helicopter's broadcast, the scene disappeared in an instant. Countless people were cursing. Damn it, I'm already halfway through taking off my pants, and you're showing me a black screen. Can you broadcast properly? Hurry up and send someone over. However, no one was willing to go. It was no different from courting death. After all, compared to money, life was more precious. If the broadcast continued for one more second, they would be able to see the figure of the Supreme Overlord. On the back of the Black Tortoise, Yi Hua stood with his hands behind his back and stared at South Wuxia, who was not far away. This is the first time I'm fighting against South Wuxia. I naturally can't lose to him in terms of aura. You want me to walk down the stairs? Haha. You're thinking too much. Behind Yi Hua was Donghuang Baizhi, and beside Yi Zizi, Lai Gu, and Death Mage were Donghuang Baizhi. Compared to South Wuxia, the Black Tortoise was already one size bigger. Especially when the Black Tortoise stepped out from the multicolored clouds, that scene was extremely shocking. South Wuxia appeared to be too small, just like a small sail in the sky. And as long as the Black Tortoise steps down, the entire South Wuxia would turn into a pile of ruins. However, Yi Hua did not intend to do that. The Black Tortoise could be seen walking forward slowly, and when it got close to South Wuxia, the Black Tortoise stretched out its body and steadily placed it on the stairs. Yi Hua walked forward slowly, and the 4 people behind him followed behind him unhurriedly. Their faces were brimming with confidence. At this moment, Kai Yun suddenly stood up, seemingly wanting to welcome Yi Hua's arrival. Yi Hua and the 4 people stepped onto the ground of South Wuxia, and the Black Tortoise behind him once again let out a sky-shaking roar. The Black Tortoise's pair of aged eyes stared fixedly at South Wuxia and the 4 people, seemingly wanting to use a move. Doom's eyes. This is a warning to everyone in South Wuxia. If you dare to go overboard, then prepare to welcome the fury of a primordial divine beast. After using Doom's eyes, the Black Tortoise slowly left and disappeared within the layer of clouds, as if it had never appeared before. Lucifer and Miyamoto Nagata were already stupefied. Who is this man? Isn't the person behind him the Empress? Why is the Empress standing behind him? Hey, why would the Black Tortoise listen to you? Aren't you embarrassed? Kai Yun asked curiously. That Black Tortoise was a prideful and arrogant species among the primordial divine beasts, so how could it possibly listen to a human? Yihua looked at Kai Yun and said faintly, "Little wimp, what do you know?" Lucifer, Miyamoto Nagata. Miyamoto Nagata thought to himself, this man must have angered Flagmaster just now. To actually dare to call Flagmaster a little wimp, this should be a huge crime. Flagmaster, go! Kai Yun went into a daze for a moment, then shouted out loudly, "You are the one who is a little wimp. Your whole family is made up of little wimps." This kind of tone wasn't insulting, it was just like the helpless scolding of a child. Miyamoto Nagata was in disbelief. "Flagmaster, are you really a child? How can you say such a thing?" Yuhua stood up and shouted out coldly, "Voidless realm! As a guest! You all are very rude. I am also a reasonable person. The way I acted just now can be considered as ordinary. Is your South Wuxia very big? I will bring an even bigger one over and let you all know what is called a colossus. With just a single body, I will be the size of your entire South Wuxia." Impudent! You dare to be rude to his honor. Didn't your Flagmaster teach you manners? Lai Gu wasn't careless either. Even the other party's subordinate is shouting at me, so how can I remain calm? When it comes to talking, I have never been afraid of anyone. The atmosphere in South Wuxia had already dropped to the freezing point, and it seemed like a huge battle was about to break out. Right now, Donghuang Baiji wasn't afraid at all. Her husband's strong confidence had given her a firm belief. Furthermore, her husband would never do something that he wasn't sure of. At this moment, Lucifer suddenly stood up and said with a smile, "We are all civilized people, how about we sit down first?" Chapter 704. Yihua didn't plan to pay attention to this brat. After the interaction just now, he immediately felt that South Wuxia was extremely weak. Is this the Flagmaster? Different from what I imagined, she is just a little girl who is still wet behind the ears. Look at her expression, she is even pouting and angry. Even my Lu, has never acted like this, but Ali acts like this from time to time. I am actually worried for such an organization. Seems like I have not experienced being strong for a long time, and I am just scaring myself. Yihua and Donghuang Baiji sat down, while Lai Gu, Yi Zizi, and Deathmage stood behind them. Miyamoto Nagata was very vexed. This is exactly what I thought. Why didn't they fight? Just now, both sides were about to fight. Why is this foreigner so nosy? And this Flagmaster, why doesn't she look angry at all? Alright, she is actually angry, but that pouting look of yours is a bit too much. Are you getting angry at your father? I feel that my view of the world has been overturned. Why is South Wuxia such an organization? Lucifer was also frightened. Just now they were about to fight, and if they were to really fight, I will definitely be in trouble. Therefore, I must definitely not let them fight. Definitely not. Kai Yun took a glance at Yihua, then said angrily, "Serve the dishes. I am hungry." Seeing that the Flagmaster didn't explode, the other 5 flags didn't say anything. White Bones clapped his hands. Sichuan dishes could be seen floating in the air and steadily landed on everyone's table. Yuhua's mouth revealed a smile once again. "Today is the Flagmaster's treat, everyone, don't be polite, eat as much as you want." Right after she finished speaking, Yihua threw the chopsticks in his hand onto the table and said faintly, "Is this all we are going to eat?" Clearly, he is going to cause trouble. Looking at Yihua's actions, Miyamoto Nagata was delighted and said, "What's wrong with these dishes? I feel that they are pretty good. Furthermore, it is the Flagmaster's treat. What kind of honor is this?" Lucifer had a bad premonition in his heart and hurriedly said, "Flagmaster, please don't take it to heart. Eating should be done in a joyful atmosphere, don't you guys agree?" Yihua was very curious about what these two were trying to do. Not only Yihua was curious. Even the few people from South Wuxia were also curious. It was obvious that the other party was the one that was going to fly into a rage, and the other was going to put out the fire. Kai Yun's goal was not to eat, and Yihua's goal was also not to eat. Both of them had the same goal, so they were both looking for an opportunity. Miyamoto Shotai was helping, but Lucifer was like a firefighter, which made people speechless. Yihua crossed his arms in front of his chest and said faintly, "What this person said is right, when we are eating, we should indeed bring a joyful mood with us. How about we perform a little bit?" Alright. I like watching performances. Kai Yun clapped his hands in approval, appearing to be very excited. Sitting at the back, Yuhua said in a low voice, "Flagmaster, maintain your demeanor." Kai Yun pursed his lips. "No, I want to watch the performance." Flag leader is right. Having a performance during the meal can increase one's appetite. Miyamoto Nagatake immediately responded. Everything the flagmaster said was right. Even if he was wrong, he was still right. Death Mage could be seen slowly walking to the center, and did not say anything. He stabbed the scythe of death in his hand into the ground, and the hard ground immediately cracked like a spider web. "Allow me to perform for you. How did I train my hand speed?" Miyamoto Shotai clearly wanted to curry favor with Kai Yun. Thus he shouted out, "Ishida Hikaru, help liven things up for the flagmaster." "Yes, Miyamoto-sama." Ishida Hikaru walked out of his seat and looked at the black-cloaked skeleton in front of him. He did not seem surprised at all. "Please," Ishida Hikaru said faintly, then slowly walked down the stairs in the center and arrived at the platform below. Death Mage was also the kind of person who did not speak much. His figure instantly disappeared and directly appeared at the platform below. Meanwhile, everyone sat on the platform and admired the performance. Fun. Kai Yun clapped his hands happily. This made Yuhua, who was at the back, feel helpless. Once a flagmaster is happy, she would not be able to control herself. "Yihua, how is this flagmaster?" Donghuang Baiji said in a low voice. "This flagmaster is different from the flagmaster in my mind." Yihua patted on the back of Donghuang Baiji's hand. "Let's take a look first. This flagmaster is not that simple." Donghuang Baiji nodded her head. To be able to become the flagmaster of Namo flags, how is it possible for him to not have some skills? On the platform, Death Mage looked at Ishida Hikaru, who was in front of him. A black katana condensed in the latter's hand, and he held the katana with both hands. Ishida Hikaru. According to the rules of the world, Ishida Hikaru first reported his name. However, Death Mage also knew the rules. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Death Mage hugged the death scythe in his hands. This action of hugging the death scythe stunned Kai Yun. Afterward, Kai Yun laughed out loudly. "Ha ha ha! Fun, this is too fun. I like this skeleton." Lucifer was also very astonished. In such a serious scene, that black-cloaked skeleton actually dared to be so reckless. Is he looking down on his opponent, or is he very confident in his own strength? Miyamoto Shotai was very angry. The veins on the back of his hands were all bulging out. "My opponent is obviously looking down on me." When Death Mage took out his iPhone, X's other than Yihua, everyone else was stupefied. Especially Kai Yun, he directly jumped out, "I like this skeleton." Yuhua hugged onto Kai Yun. "Flagmaster, be a bit more reserved." Yuhua had no choice but to hug onto the flagmaster. Kai Yun was very unhappy. "It wasn't easy for me to meet an interesting life form. I still want to interact more with him." As Death Mage's opponent, Ishida Hikaru was already angered to the point that the katana in his hands was trembling. "You are actually playing a game." Death Mage was just playing a game normally. He typed out a few words, then scrolled and played. "Please call me Master Mage." Looking at the words that Death Mage typed out, Ishida Hikaru was about to explode from anger. This is simply a blatant insult. Although Kai Yun was being hugged by Yuhua, Kai Yun still shouted out loudly, "Little brother skeleton, do your best, I have high hopes for you." Everyone, especially Yihua, he was even more speechless. Is this flagmaster's brain retarded? I am here to cause trouble, and you are actually cheering for my subordinate. This is the first time that I have met such a weird opponent. Lai Gu and Yi Zizi were also rather surprised. They have a deep understanding of this flagmaster. This degree of weirdness is even more awesome than Do Fusher. To actually insult me. I will throw your bones into the toilet bowl to wash them. Ishida Hikaru couldn't take it anymore, and the katana in his hands released out a strong light. "Rachel!" Ishida Hikaru shouted out explosively, and the katana in his hands released out dazzling lightning. His entire person was just like a walking cheetah. However, Death Mage's figure had already disappeared. Chapter 705. Ishida Hikaru looked at his own body blankly. He was still standing there, and the katana in his hand was still releasing its skill, just that it had not been released yet. Where is this? Why am I seeing my own body? Why am I seeing my own head? Other than Yihua, everyone else looked at this scene in a daze. Ishida Hikaru's head could be seen hanging on Death Mage's death scythe. In that instant just now, Death Mage raised his speed to the extreme, intending to shock Death Mage right from the start. It must be said that Death Mage has a brain now. This is what the so-called shock looks like. Death Mage took out his phone again and typed on it, then placed it on the screen, "Weak chicken." Ishida Hikaru looked at his own body falling down, but his mind was still clear. This kind of situation is inexplicable, and he is terrified to the extreme. Only now did Ishida Hikaru realize that he was about to die, and with unwillingness, he breathed his last breath. Nice. Too nice. I still want to watch. Kai Yun immediately shouted out his inner thoughts. As a member of a different race, he definitely had a favorable impression towards Death Mage, who was also a different race. Also, that killing method of Death Mage, it was simply too cool. Just what race is this black robe from? That kind of high-speed movement just now, I actually couldn't feel it at all. This mysterious East is indeed very scary. Luckily, I listened to my subordinate's words and didn't come over. If I had come across this black robe, I would definitely have died. Miyamoto Nagata was very angry, but he was not stupid. This black robe instantly killed Ishida Hikaru. This strength is already very scary, and I am not his opponent at all. Thus, Miyamoto Nagata squeezed out a smile and said respectfully, "Flagmaster, sorry for disturbing your mood, my subordinate did not bring any joy to Flagmaster." The heart of the fatty Nakata Senda who was standing at the back sunk. I didn't expect that Miyamoto-sama would actually try to curry favor with Flagmaster this much. Ishida Hikaru's death was actually just to bring joy to the Flagmaster, and he even apologized for it. Miyamoto-sama, back then when you sat on this position, us brothers had helped you a lot. Kai Yun waved his hand, not putting Miyamoto Nagata in his eyes at all. It's fine, I am very happy. After all, you guys are too weak. Miyamoto Nagata. Kai Yun learned quite quickly, and immediately used the word, weak chicken. Death Mage was still standing below the stage, waiting for his opponent to come onto the stage. As his honor subordinate, I must definitely help his honor regain some face. Yihua hugged onto Donghuang Baiji and began showing off his woman. Soon after, Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. Donghuang Baiji had no other choice. Her husband liked to do this, and as long as she cooperated with him, it would be fine. Therefore, Donghuang Baiji snuggled into her husband's embrace shyly. This shyness was not an act. She was indeed a little embarrassed. Smoking a cigarette and hugging the most beautiful woman in the world. What a joy! Yihua said faintly, "The performance still has to continue, why don't we call for a slightly stronger person? There's no point in watching an instant kill." That's right. We have to be strong against strong. I like to be strong. Kai Yun echoed. Yihua almost choked on the smoke that he was smoking. My opponent's IQ is not on the same channel as mine, it is really F*King hard to communicate with. Which one of you will go and perform for me? Kai Yun looked at Lucifer and Shotai Miyamoto and asked. Following Kai Yun's words, Lucifer and Miyamoto Nagatake's expressions changed drastically. The black-robed man below was so terrifying. He was no match for him at all. Miyamoto Nagatake hurriedly said, "Flagmaster, my strength is limited, and I am unable to give Flagmaster a pleasant feeling. Why don't we just let him go on stage?" Miyamoto Nagatake kicked the ball to Lucifer, and this caused Lucifer to almost go berserk. What a shameless man! Kai Yun pouted his mouth. To think that you can say such weak words, why did I call for you? Flag. Before Miyamoto Nagatake could finish speaking, he felt a chill on his neck. Yihua and Donghuang Baiji's brows became wrinkled. Those 5 people did not make any movements just now, and the one who made a move was definitely that White Bones. Indeed, just like what Li Hun said, this White Bones is very strange. Yihua sent a voice transmission to Lai Gu and asked, "Did you feel anything?" "Reporting to your honor, I did not feel any movements from Bai Gu." Lai Gu also became calm. This White Bones is indeed ghostly. Yi Zizi said lightly, "Your honor, Zizi did not feel anything either." Hearing what his 2 subordinates said, Yihua let them go. Luckily, it's not that I can't feel anything, I can't feel anything. Yihua became slightly more balanced. Miyamoto Nagatake touched his neck and looked at Kai Yun, who was grinning happily. That expression of his seemed to be asking, "Why did you suddenly want to kill me?" "I wanted to join you all." However, Kai Yun didn't want weak chickens at all. In her eyes, weak chickens should all die, and it would be a waste of food to keep them alive. Blood flowed out from Kai Yun's neck. It was very scary. Nakata Yasuda, who was standing at the back, didn't dare to move. He didn't even know what happened just now. Miyamoto Nagatake's head fell onto the table from his neck, causing the food on the table to overturn. Because Miyamoto Nagatake was in a kneeling position, his body didn't fall onto the ground, and it seemed as if he wasn't dead yet. "Yihua, this flagmaster is trying to show us her strength," Dong Huangbaiji said lightly. Yihua nodded his head. He understood very well why Kai Yun did this. "I feel that I have underestimated her a bit. Her Chunibyu seems to be faking. Her brain is still very normal, and she knows how to use this kind of method to scare me. But, do you think that I am scared?" Right now, Lucifer was already stupefied, and he even felt that he was going to die soon. Meyer, who was standing at the back, also had the same feeling, and he felt as if he was going to see a bloodstain appearing on Lord Lucifer's neck. Such a thing won't happen. Kai Yun only wanted to kill someone to scare Yihua. After all, Yihua had just killed someone right before her eyes, and this was a blatant provocation. As the flagmaster, how could she allow such a thing to happen? The performance continues. "White Bones, you go up," Kai Yun shouted while beaming. White Bones' voice rang out from the air. "Yes." Lucifer let out a breath of relief. "I knew that this meal wouldn't be delicious. Even if I don't get killed, I will be scared to death." Nakata Yasuda's mood was the same as well, to the point that he didn't even dare to move recklessly, fearing that the flagmaster would kill him if she were to become unhappy. However, when he heard that White Bones was going to fight against the Black Robe, Nakata Yasuda was also very curious. Just who would win? Right now, Lucifer was also curious. That White Bones' movement technique is too strange. I wonder how many rounds this skeleton can last. As for Yihua, he continued to smoke his cigarette while hugging onto the beauty, and he seemed to be very at ease. That White Bones is indeed strange, but in the end, it is only strange. If it wants to kill someone, it has to come into contact with the other party. What if the other party has absolute defense? If that is the case, the existence of the White Bones would be meaningless. Although I, the Supreme Overlord, have no way to deal with you right now, I have a way to get rid of your injuries. Chapter 706. Furthermore, the script was playing out according to my plan. Death Mage being the first to appear was also arranged by me. He predicted that they would let White Bones go up first, so he gave Death Mage an armor. The name was simple. That was absolute defense. However, what Yihua was worried about right now was whether or not this absolute defense would be able to defend against White Bones' attack. Because Yihua knew that there were no absolutes in this world. Just like this set of armor, in front of Yihua's main body, it was still like a piece of white paper, unable to withstand a single blow. So now it was time to see how strong White Bone was, or rather, how strong its strength was. Could it destroy absolute defense? If it could, then I can only rely on Lai Gu and Yi Zizi to regain back my face. Actually, in Yihua's heart, it would be the best result for this battle to end in a draw. After all, he had yet to find the White Bone's weak point, and the probability of killing it was too low. Yihua lightly let out a mouthful of smoke and said faintly, "This person is my subordinate. You all have to be careful when dealing with him." Subordinate? Lucifer was shocked. If his subordinate was already so powerful, then how powerful was his subordinate? How powerful was he himself? This damned East. Why are there so many monsters in the East? This is completely unfair. Did their strength come out from their mother's womb? Kai Yun was slightly surprised as well. "Ah, then wouldn't you be even more powerful?" "Of course," Yihua said lightly. After I finished speaking, I felt that something was wrong. Why did I pay attention to a little brat's words? I was led astray by her. F***me. Shall we perform it later? Kai Yun's eyes shone with the light of excitement, and he was even trembling slightly. This was the excitement of an expert meeting another expert. Yuhua could feel the flagmaster's excitement, but she didn't say anything. This was normal behavior. Yi Hua said indifferently. Beat up my subordinates first. All right. White Bones, you have to do your best. And little brother Skeleton, you have to do your best too. Kai Yun shouted at the two below. Today was simply too fun. This Baigu even said that Voidless Realm is very weak. Voidless Realm is clearly very strong. Okay? Yet, he actually lied to me. Death Mage was holding on to the death scythe. There wasn't any expression on his skeletal face. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't be able to. Death Mage was also trying to sense the location of the White Bones, but it was a pity that he was unable to find anything. This is the strangest opponent that I have ever met. It is no wonder that the White Bones were able to escape from his honor's hands. As expected, the White Bones are very powerful. Death Mage did not dare to be careless. It made a jajage sound. Top defense boost. Advanced speed boost. Increase bone hardness. All kinds of top-notch defensive enhancements. Instantly. Death Mage's body emitted out a multicolored radiance, strengthening his defense to the extreme. Looking at Death Mage's expression, Kai Yun said in a low voice, "Very smart." Yu Hua caressed Kai Yun's beautiful hair and said softly, "They are very strong. The two people standing behind them are even stronger than this skeleton." I think so too. Wild Sand, let's see what their true forms are, Kai Yun asked curiously. The scarecrow that was sitting at the side took a look at Yi Zizi and Lai Gu, and its pair of eyeballs that were hanging on the straw couldn't help but make people's scalp go numb. Flagmaster, that man was transformed from a bone dragon, and he is one of the more commonly seen undead race. As for that ponytail girl, her original body is a bit special. Kwang Sha said gravely. Kai Yun went into a slight daze. To be able to make Kwang Sha say these words, her background definitely isn't small. What do you mean? Kai Yun continued to ask. Kwang Sha said gravely, Flagmaster, do you still remember a powerful race that was recorded in the records? Kai Yun's gaze became serious. Kwang Sha, are you talking about the Tao Tai race? The Tao Tai race is born with a powerful innate skill of devouring, and they are able to transform the enemy's strength into a part of themselves. The Tao Tai race was also the most glorious race back then. Kwang Sha said slowly. However, they had only heard of the Tao Tai race, and had never come into contact with them. Because when they were mingling around, the Tao Tai race had already disappeared long ago, and only terrifying legends were left behind. Kai Yun muttered, I didn't expect that I would come across the Tao Tai race here today, and furthermore, I am appearing as someone else's subordinate. This is too interesting. Yu Hua said vigilantly, Flagmaster, the scariest thing about the Tao Tai race is that they release their original body to fight. You cannot underestimate them. I understand. Kai Yun naturally understood, but he also wanted to see just how violent the Tao Tai race's original body was. Back then, when Yi Hua was fighting against Yi Zizi didn't even release her original body. To be more precise, she was preparing to release her original body, but was controlled by Yi Hua. In actuality, Yi Hua still didn't know that right now, Yi Zizi hadn't reached her peak state at all, and could only be considered as a little fellow. If Yi Zizi were to reach the peak state of the Tao Tai race, it would really make the entire world tremble. The strength of the Tao Tai race was unquestionable. Wei Chong and Zhu Tian's races were also rather rare, and of course, there were the other two 7 deadly sins. Within the entire 7 deadly sins, only Brett could be considered as a person. What race is that man? Kai Yun asked curiously. Kwang Sha said respectfully, That man is just an undead. I'm a little disappointed. Kai Yun spread out his hands helplessly. I thought that Yi Hua was a powerful race, but it turns out that he is just an undead. There's no helping it, undead are too common. What about that woman? Kai Yun looked towards Dong Huang Baiji. Kwang Sha paused for a moment then said, That woman has a special scent, she seems to be the same as those people who sealed us. Oh? Did this woman have such a relationship? Things have become interesting. Kai Yun's heart was trembling. Wonderful. He needed these powerful opponents. This subordinate doesn't dare to be certain, Kwang Sha added. Because Dong Huang Baiji's body was no longer pure. Because Dong Huang Baiji's child, Dong Huang Baiji's bloodline had been tainted by Yi Hua's bloodline. Thus the aura within Donghuang Baiji's body would become a lot more mixed up, and Donghuang Baiji's body would no longer be that pure. Although it wasn't pure, the benefits it brought were much stronger than pure ones. Yihua and Donghuang Baiji could sense that these people were sizing them up, and they seemed to be communicating with each other through sound transmission. At this moment, Yihua sent a sound transmission to Yi Zizi. Let's see what their true forms are. Yes, Your Honor. Yi Zizi's scarlet eyes looked towards the 5 people. He got what he wanted in an instant. But he didn't know what to call it, so he could only summarize it. Your Honor, that woman is the same as the video. She has a lot of water in her body. Yi Zizi said. Yihua nodded his head, and his gaze drifted towards Yuhua. A woman with a lot of water. I wonder if I can burn her with fire or not. If it was ordinary water, it would definitely work. Chapter 707. Hearing Yi Zizi's expression, Yihua paused for a moment, then lowered his head and looked at Donghuang Baiji, who was in his embrace. Looking at her husband's astonished expression, Donghuang Baiji was a bit puzzled. What does he mean? Just what kind of creature is that? Yihua asked gravely. Yi Zizi expressed that she wasn't sure. In any case, it is the kind that has a lot of water. Yihua gave up on asking. Next. Your Honor, that Luo Ho who is holding a fan is a light. Yi Zizi didn't know how to describe it. It was the kind of bright light. Light? Yihua was a bit surprised. These people are all elementals. No wonder I can't kill them, they are indeed powerful. Continue. That ugly one is a lump of fire. Yi Zizi said. Hearing Yi Zizi's words, Yihua confirmed his guess. As expected, they are all elementals. I have never seen such a race before. They are indeed powerful. What is that scarecrow? Yihua asked. A lump of black. I don't know what it is. A lump of black? Yihua was a bit puzzled. Is this something that belongs to darkness? Then, what is this flagmaster? Yihua asked again. It only has one eye. Yi Zizi was a bit astonished. The flagmaster's original body and its current appearance formed a clear contrast. It actually only has one eye. It looks very scary. Yihua asked gravely. Is there no other body part? Nope, it is just a huge eye. Yi Zizi said in a low voice. This kind of body is even more frightening than Wei Chong. Yihua didn't ask anything else and entered into deep thoughts. This was also why the 5 flags sealed the flagmaster. The flagmaster wasn't an elemental life form, but they were. The reason why the 5 flags sealed the flagmaster was to protect the flagmaster, and no matter what they did, they couldn't die. Thus, they could only be sealed and wait for the right time to summon the flagmaster out. Seems like Nan Wuxia got into big trouble back then. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done such a thing. Yihua looked towards Death Mage. I hope that Death Mage won't embarrass me today. If I can fight to a draw, I will be rewarded. If I can kill the White Bones, that would be the best, but the hope is very slim. Death Mage, who had all sorts of defenses, sensed the airflow in the surroundings, hoping to find the location of the White Bones. This idea is indeed good, but the White Bones is like air, it can control the airflow. Suddenly, Death Mage felt that there was movement in the 9 o'clock direction. Without thinking too much, he held onto the death scythe in his hand and slashed towards it. Boom! A huge crater was created on the hard ground by the death scythe, and a red light flashed past Death Mage's empty eyes. I've been tricked. In an instant, Death Mage stretched out his bony hand towards his back. Spreading out his 5 eerie white fingers, a black shield instantly appeared. Bang! A huge force slammed into the shield, setting off a violent shockwave. Cracks could be seen appearing on the surface of the black barrier, and the cracks looked just like glass, causing Death Mage to be startled in his heart. The other party was indeed very powerful. At the instant when Death Mage was absent-minded, a powerful pressure came from the other side. Looking at this time, Yihua's expression sunk. This White Bones attack is really strange and ever-changing. It was obviously attacking on the shield, but in the blink of an eye, it would appear on the other side. This is not the benefit brought by speed, this is the advantage of race. Death Mage also knew the consequences of being hit, so he did not think too much about it. Absolute defense. In an instant, a set of pitch-black armor condensed on top of the Death Mage's White Bones, covering 100% of the Death Mage's body. There was also a red cloak on his back, and together with the death scythe in his hands, he looked extremely cool. Bang! Although Death Mage had summoned out absolute defense, the punch of the white bone still landed onto the left side of Death Mage's abdomen. The huge impact caused Death Mage to be sent flying away like a cannonball. Luo Ho, who was sitting behind Kai Yun, suddenly opened his folding fan, and a golden halo enveloped the entire South Wuxia flag. Meanwhile, Death Mage, who was sent flying away, fiercely crashed onto the golden halo, and the golden halo slightly trembled for a bit. The reason why Luo Ho did this was to not let Death Mage fly too far away. If not, the Flagmaster wouldn't be able to enjoy the wonderful battle. Death Mage's body could be seen directly falling onto the ground, smashing out a deep hole on the ground. Right now, Death Mage still had a lingering fear in his heart. Just a moment ago, I was almost done for. My defense was completely useless. If not for the absolute defense that his honor gave me, I would have directly lost my life. Death Mage can still be summoned by his honor, but losing face for his honor is not allowed. Death Mage, who was lying on the ground, suddenly stood up, then slightly lowered his head and took a look at the left side of his abdomen. A small dent actually appeared on the black absolute defense. How is this possible? A dent actually appeared on the item that his honor took out. This strength is too terrifying. Yihua also saw that inconspicuous dent, and his brows slightly wrinkled. This white bone's strength is truly not bad, to actually be able to make an inconspicuous dent on absolute defense. However, at this moment, Kai Yun was also very surprised. This set of armor is pretty good. It has already reached the level of Great Desolate Era. Kai Yun said with a smile. Yihua said tenderly, "That's right, but what this white bone specializes in isn't strength, it is a bit of a pity." Kai Yun nodded his head. The advantage that the white bone race had was indeed very strong, and it made people's hearts turn cold. However, at the same time, the white bone race was a bit weak in another aspect, and that was strength. The reason why the white bone race was at the bottom of the Five Flags battle team was because the white bone race's strength was much weaker than the white bone race. If it was Luo Ho's attack just now, the result would definitely be different. After all, the white bone race had such an abnormally strong advantage. If the white bone race's strength was abnormally strong as well, who would be a match for the white bone race? Death Mage was very angry right now. Although he didn't have the time to pay attention to his honor's expression, he was able to guess that his honor's expression should be very unhappy. After all, he had already fallen into a disadvantageous position. Compared to Death Mage, the white bone race seemed to be even more surprised right now. My attack only left a small mark on that set of armor. How is this possible? What kind of armor is this? Its defensive ability is completely restraining me. This situation is very bad. Big Brother Skeleton, this set of armor is not bad. Did you give it to me? Bai Yun asked Yihua with a joyous look on his face. Yihua's gaze looked at the stage and said faintly, "They are all trash, take them out and use them." Kai Yun, can you not act cool? You are still quite handsome when you are not acting cool. Humph, Kai Yun snorted. When I came out to act cool, who knows where you were? Donghuang Baiji agreed with what Kai Yun said. When Yihua is not acting cool, he is still quite handsome, but when he is acting cool, I feel a bit weird. Hearing that, Yihua snorted coldly and did not pay any attention to this brat. What a waste of my saliva. Chapter 708. Right now, Lucifer had completely become a passerby. In Europe, he was a boss existence, and everyone who saw him would have to address him respectfully. However, sitting here, Lucifer didn't feel good at all. He was completely ignored, and he even felt that he was too small. Just a sneeze from the opponent would make him tremble with fear for a long time. Nakata Genta's entire body stiffened. The reason why he was still able to stand was because he couldn't feel his legs anymore. He felt that he was definitely going to die. If it was me, I would have already died. This voidless realm is indeed formidable. Even an underling's underling is so arrogant. On the battlefield, Death Mage raised up his death scythe. Death Mage didn't look like a master mage. Instead, he looked like a fearless warrior. GGG, Imperial Translation, Absolute Domain. Death Mage had no other choice but to release his absolute domain to defend against the enemy. Death Mage had no other choice but to release his absolute domain to defend against the enemy. Within the absolute domain, Death Mage was like a god, and he was able to perceive everything. Although Absolute Domain was very powerful, Absolute Domain wasn't a vacuum, there was still air within it. If that was the case, the white bones would still be able to survive. Death Mage released his Absolute Domain and immediately began searching for the location of the white bones. However, what made Death Mage exclaim in surprise was that he was still unable to find the white bones. This Absolute Domain can't be fake, right? Darkness protection. Death Mage shouted, and a layer of protection gradually fused with the armor, greatly increasing the defense of the armor. Darkness barrier. Death Mage continued using his defensive technique and enveloped his body within the barrier. Death Mage's actions had already made it clear that he was planning to use his defense to defend against the white bones. Because there was no way for him to attack the white bones, and right now, the white bones also had no way to attack him. Just like what his honor said, as long as the battle ends in a draw, it would be my victory. After all, the white bones is an underling's underling, and the white bones is one of the 5 flags. If the battle ends in a draw, it would be our loss. The white bones silently scolded Death Mage for being shameless. To actually calculate that I am weak and strengthen my defense. Ha! The white bones shouted out angrily and attacked again. There was still no spiritual energy fluctuation. Death Mage seemed to have given up on searching and just stood at his original spot. Death Mage could see that his darkness barrier had already been broken through, but it had also reduced quite a bit of the white bones' power. When the white bones' fist came into contact with his darkness barrier, it was more or less like scratching an itch. Death Mage even stood at his original spot and withstood the white bones' barrier. One must know that the Absolute Domain was also weakening the white bones' power, and adding Death Mage's various defenses, the white bones' weakness had already been displayed to the extreme. Following the destruction of the dark barrier, Death Mage condensed another barrier. After that, white bones could be seen attacking with all its might. However, all of its attacks were in vain. It was no longer able to send Death Mage flying, and it was also unable to leave any marks on absolute defense. So, there was only one reason why white bones was at the bottom. When it encountered someone with an extremely strong defense, white bones couldn't do anything, and the opponent couldn't do anything to it either, so it could only be in a stalemate. On the other hand, white bones' role in the team was mostly to scout and display white bones' strength. The battle was basically done by others. Looking at the situation on the battlefield, Yi Hua could be considered to be slightly relieved. For Death Mage to be able to do this much, it is already very good. Now, it all depends on whether or not Death Mage is able to find the weak point of the white bones. That's right, other than making Death Mage fight to a draw, Yi Hua had an even more important task. That was to look for white bones' weakness during the battle. Right now, Death Mage was also carrying out a mission. Death Mage did not have to worry about getting injured, so he could calmly evaluate white bones. Look for weaknesses in each of its attacks. Suddenly, Death Mage seemed to have thought of something. GGG, Imperial Translation, Space Seal. An unknown black substance suddenly emerged from the 4 corners of Death Mage's surroundings, and it actually formed into a black rectangular box, enveloping Death Mage within it. Death Mage stood inside the box and quietly waited for white bones' attack. However, after waiting for quite a while, white bones still didn't attack. Space Seal. Inside the box was a vacuum environment. There was no air. However, if there was no air, how was Death Mage going to breathe? Does an undead need to breathe? White bones looked down at the huge black box and felt that there was no air inside the box, so it could only stare blankly. It was a pity that Death Mage's ability was limited. If he were to expand the radius of the space seal, that would be the time of death for white bones. Who said that elemental races were unkillable? It was just that they didn't find a way to kill them. In this world, there is no race that cannot be killed. There are only strong individuals that cannot be killed. Yi Hua seemed to have seen through something as well, and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Death Mage is still quite smart. Not bad, not bad. I, the Supreme Overlord, like you very much. It was not a waste for me to introduce a beauty like Sun Fong to you. If you perform well, I will bestow you a physical body and let you enjoy being a man. Kai Yun was a bit unhappy. Yu Hua said in a low voice, Flagmaster, let White Bones come back. If this goes on, the other party would be able to find White Bones' weakness. Yu Hua also began to worry. The other party had evidently realized that White Bones was weak, And if they were to continue wasting time like this, no one would be able to win against the other. However, what Yu Hua was worried about was that the other party would be able to find White Bone's weakness. However, Yi Hua basically already knew of White Bone's weakness. Little wimp, seems like your subordinate is unable to defeat my subordinate's subordinate. Yi Hua said faintly, indicating that you all are very weak, to not even be able to defeat my subordinate's subordinate. Kai Yun was very angry and said, "You are the little wimp if you have the ability, then get your subordinate to take off his clothes." What a joke. This is making use of resources. You can also put on clothes for White Bones. Yi Hua said in disdain. If this White Bones were to put on clothes, wouldn't it be equivalent to revealing itself? Therefore, this White Bones cannot wear anything, if not, it would lose its usefulness. Acting shamelessly. White Bones, come back. Kai Yun pouted her small mouth and flew into a rage, calling White Bones, who was in the middle of the stage, back. When White Bones heard Flagmaster's words, it took one last look at the black box, then returned behind Flagmaster unwillingly. Flagmaster, subordinate has failed in his duty. White Bones, this is not your fault. It is the enemy who is too cunning. Kai Yun said angrily. I heard that undead are usually very stupid, but why does this undead have a brain? This is really strange. Yi Hua laughed out loud. Death Mage, you have done well. Death Mage bowed respectfully in front of Yi Hua. It is subordinate's fault that subordinate was unable to defeat the other party. It's fine, it's fine. Yi Hua felt great in his heart. This time, not only did I manage to get back my face, I even found out White Bone's weakness. So it turns out that in a vacuum, White Bones doesn't have any methods to deal with White Bones. I wonder if I will die in a vacuum? This is truly an exciting experiment. Lucifer was stupefied. I didn't expect that White Bones and this skeleton would be able to fight to a draw. This is too exaggerated, right? Chapter 709. In the end, Death Mage cheated a bit and wore absolute defense. If not for this armor, Death Mage would have most likely lost. But just like what Yi Hua said, this was the use of resources, so why can't I let my subordinate use it? Although Death Mage managed to fight to a draw by relying on absolute defense, he also found out about White Bone's weakness. If they were to fight again, Death Mage would be able to grasp onto White Bone's weakness and continue fighting. From how Yun Kai stopped White Bones just now, it could be seen that she didn't want White Bones to continue fighting. Yi Hua suddenly picked up his chopsticks and ate a piece of mapo tofu, then said with a smile, "So fragrant." Kai Yun clenched his fists in anger. "You! Again. Lai Gu, go and exercise a bit." Yi Hua slowly placed down his chopsticks and said lightly. Lai Gu answered respectfully, "Yes, Your Honor." Hearing Lai Gu's words, Kai Yun said in disdain, "You still call yourself Your Honor? I have killed quite a number of people who call themselves Your Honor. I am the same as well." Yi Hua said faintly. Kai Yun pouted his mouth. This man is too good at acting cool. I must definitely teach him a lesson. Flagmaster, let subordinate fight for you. Yi Hua stood up and said. And you must win. Flagmaster, don't worry. Yi Hua's beautiful eyes turned cold as she looked towards Lai Gu. Lai Gu didn't hesitate. He looked straight at Yi Hua and even stretched out his index and middle fingers and started shaking intensely. The naive South Wuxia people didn't know what Lai Gu's hand gesture meant. But the others knew, especially Nakata Genta. He was dumbstruck. This kind of hand speed is indeed impressive. It is impossible to train without a few years of training, and with this kind of hand speed one would be invincible. Any woman would like it. Donghuang Baiji pinched Yi Hua angrily and said softly, "Look at your subordinate." Yi Hua silently stretched out his index and middle fingers, then looked at the beauty in his embrace and said, "Baiji, let's go back and try tonight." "Go and die." The Empress's face instantly turned red, feeling that her husband was going to be led astray by Lai Gu. Yi Hua laughed lightly, then lightly hugged onto his wife's body, preparing to watch Lai Gu fight against a woman with a lot of water. And Yi Hua had also told Lai Gu before to never reveal his true body. Because back then, during the battle between Voidless Realm and Ding family, Lai Gu's true body was revealed, and he had even injured the Empress. Even now, the Empress was still brooding over it, and Yi Hua had also heard quite a few of the Empress's complaints. She even wanted me to help her take revenge. She said that back then, when I was beaten up so badly, You don't even feel sorry for your wife, and even asked Yihua to stew that bone dragon. As expected, Lai Gu was unable to escape the fate of being stewed. Right now, Lai Gu was walking down the stairs absent-mindedly. His honor did not allow me to reveal my true form, and that would depend on how strong the opponent is. If this woman were to drown me with water, then it would not be easy for me to reveal my true form. However, when his honor's true body is exposed, his honor's family, internal strife might once again occur in the family. However, if they found out that it was all just a show, the consequences would be terrifying. Standing below, Lai Gu looked at the moonlight slowly descending. It must be said that this woman was very alluring. Every step she took was so graceful. That cyan cheongsam accentuated her figure, and there was even a slit at the side of her thigh, revealing her spotlessly white long legs to the air from time to time. This kind of feeling made Lai Gu's heart itch. Facing a woman who was like water, Lai Gu seemed to be unable to maintain his calm. Of course, I have to maintain my gentlemanly demeanor. Who knows? I might even have a wonderful chance encounter with her. Therefore, Lai Gu waved his hand towards the moonlight once again. Hello, I am Lai Gu. Moonlight. Moonlight muttered. There wasn't much fluctuation in her emotions. This caused Lai Gu to be given the cold shoulder, causing Lai Gu to be very unhappy. Donghuang Baiji looked at the lecherous Lai Gu and said in a low voice, Yihua, don't learn from Lai Gu's bad habit of flirting with girls whenever you see them. Yihua once again stretched out his index finger and middle finger. Donghuang Baiji hammered her husband unhappily, but her heart was still thumping madly. Women were all like this. Even if they said no, they were just being reserved. In fact, they needed it very much, perhaps more than men needed it. Lucifer admired Lai Gu very much. He actually dares to take liberties with a woman from Nanwuqi. Awesome. He didn't know how many years he would be sentenced for flirting with the flagmaster. It seemed like the flagmaster was already an adult. Nakata Kenta also felt that Yuehua was very beautiful. Her skin was as clear as water, and her beauty had an aura of nature to it. It made people lose themselves in it and not want to get up. Kai Yun pouted, looking very unhappy. You actually dared to take liberties with someone else's moonlight. I'll stew you later. The four people who were sitting at the back were staring fixedly at the scene, wanting to see just how powerful Voidless Realm was. Just now, the opponent had won in terms of equipment. That was White Bone's weakness, which was easy to target. However, Yuehua was different. Her battle prowess was not on the same level as White Bone's. In fact, even if Yuehua fought against White Bones, the result would still be a draw. In order to eliminate a foreign race like White Bones, apart from knowing how to exploit its weakness, luck was also needed. However, they might not know that when Lai Gu's strength is compared to Death Mage, the difference is like the difference between heaven and earth. There was no doubt about this. Beauty Yuehua. How about we make a bet? Lai Gu began to play tricks again. There's no helping it. This woman made of water looks like my heart is itching. I really can't help it. Even if I get scolded by his honor, I still have to say it out. Yuehua silently took a look at Lai Gu. Speak. If I lose, I, Lai Gu, will be at your mercy. Then what if I lose? Yuehua asked. Lai Gu was waiting for Yuehua to say this. Then you will be my wife. Lai Gu said with a smile. Looking at Yuehua's body, Lai Gu was about to drool. As expected of a member of the dragon race, to be born with this kind of character. The corner of Yuehua's mouth twitched. At a time like this, you are actually talking about this. Do you believe that I, the Supreme Overlord, will stew you? I, the Supreme Overlord, came here to look for face. Yet, you actually arranged a marriage with me. What the F***K? Even Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but cover her forehead in embarrassment. Lucifer's lower jaw was about to drop onto the table. This high school student sure has guts. Nakata Kenta also wanted to say something like this, but he didn't dare to. Meanwhile, South Wuchi's people were also endlessly astonished. There is actually someone who made such a request to Yuehua. My God. After hearing what Lai Gu said, Yuehua didn't have too much of a fluctuation in her emotions. She merely went into a daze for a moment. You want me to be your wife? Lai Gu nodded his head vigorously. I really want to press Yuehua onto the bed right now and rub myself against her. This is fate. Just now, I was the one who walked onto the stage. If Yuhua didn't walk onto the stage, I wouldn't have such a state of mind. However, it just so happened that Yuhua was the one who walked onto the stage. This is fate. This is a great marriage arranged by the heavens, therefore, I, the king, have to cherish it and let my harem have another beautiful woman. Chapter 7:10. I cannot agree to your bet, Yuhua said seriously. This time, Lai Gu became anxious. Such a beautiful woman cannot be my woman. How can that be allowed? I have already missed out on Zishan. Li Hun. Twins. I don't want to miss out on them anymore. Why can't I agree to it? Lai Gu hurriedly asked. Because my matters are all up to you, Flagmaster, Yuhua said calmly. It seemed as though she would do whatever the Flagmaster said. When Yihua heard what Lai Gu said, he pondered for a while. Seems like Lai Gu's plan is not bad. Disintegrating the enemy's internal unity. Brilliant! As expected of the Supreme Overlord's subordinates. Not only did they get to enjoy themselves, they also made the enemy depressed, killing two birds with one stone. Lai Gu had become smarter. Now, it all depended on Kai Yun's reaction. Lai Gu shouted out towards Flagmaster. Say something, are you going to bet or not? Sure. If you win, Yuhua will be yours. Kai Yun didn't think too much and directly made the bet. This was also the trust he had for his subordinate. Kai Yun's gaze turned cold and he continued. If you lose, I'm going to stew you. Lai Gu directly ignored the latter half of his honor's sentence. I have been stewed by his honor for several hundred years, and I am still doing fine. Today, I am going to hug a beauty and return home. Look, your Flagmaster has already agreed to it. Lai Gu said happily. This time around, there isn't anyone who is going to snatch my woman away from me, right? Yuhua nodded. Sure. Then, I want to consummate my marriage tonight. Lai Gu was very anxious, and he wished that he could go to consummate his marriage right now. Sure. Yuhua's voice was still that ordinary. This caused Lai Gu's interest to increase greatly. I like this kind of cold beauty. This kind of beauty is comparable to my own Wuxia. I don't know if they will be angry if I bring another woman home? It couldn't be. Lai Gu did not have any weapons, and he relied on his own hands to achieve his dreams. Yuhua clenched her hand, and a long saber made of clear water appeared. The saber was very long. The blade was at least 2 meters long. The water flow on the sword was clearly visible, and it seemed very strange. As expected of a woman that is made of water, even her weapon is made of water. I wonder. Lai Gu entered YY, and the corner of his mouth revealed out a shameful daydream. Yuhua wouldn't be lenient, and her body instantly disappeared from where she was. This caused Lai Gu to come back to his senses, and a sense of danger immediately assaulted him. Lai Gu thought to himself, this woman is a bit weak. With a low shout, Lai Gu's body exploded out with powerful spirit energy, then he punched out with his fist. Yuhua's beautiful figure also appeared, and the water blade in her hand was currently piercing towards Lai Gu's fist. Without any suspense, it was as if Lai Gu's fist had smashed onto an ordinary water surface. The water blade was basically unable to withstand such an attack and dissipated, however. Yuhua appeared very calm, as if she had already expected this result. Yuhua, I am very strong, you have to treat me seriously. Lai Gu grinned and said, Today, I will let you see my strength as a man. Whether it was in bed or out of bed, it was second to none. Yuhua said softly, You also have to take it seriously. Thank you for your concern. Lai Gu's heart felt warm. This isn't even my wife yet, and she is already so concerned about me. If she becomes my wife, wouldn't I die of warmth? Just as Lai Gu finished speaking, his pupils instantly shrunk. Before he could even think, he punched out with his left fist. This fist fiercely penetrated through Yuhua's delicate body, and the huge fist was revealed from Yuhua's back. And right now, a water blade also appeared on Lai Gu's chest. The two of them maintained this posture, and the water blade in Yuhua's hand actually bent. Just now, Lai Gu had indeed dissipated the water blade with his fist, but right now, the water blade and water blade merged together and pierced into Lai Gu's back. Yihua scolded Lai Gu inwardly. When did you become so careless? You still have the mood to speak flowery words. It has only been a few moves, And you are already injured by someone else. Idiot. Yi Zizi should have been the one to fight for the battle just now. Why did Yu Hua take the initiative to fight? That was because she knew that Lai Gu was a dragon, and she also knew the character of dragons. As long as one makes good use of their character, they would naturally be able to heavily injure their opponent, just like what happened right now. Looking at how Lai Gu punched through Yu Hua, Nan Wuqi and the others were very calm and unworried. Just like what was said before, Yu Hua was made of water. You should be a bit more serious. Yu Hua said faintly. Lai Gu's expression became a bit bad. The punch that I punched just now clearly felt. As if my punch punched through water, and there wasn't that kind of punching effect at all. This woman. There is really a lot of water. Just now, Lai Gu also knew that there was danger on his back, but he wasn't in a hurry to dodge and chose to exchange injury for injury. However, he still underestimated his opponent. Lai Gu slowly retracted his fist, and a hole could be seen on Yu Hua's chest, and inside the hole was actually flowing water. And then, the water slowly fused together. F***K, this is possible? Lai Gu cried out in surprise. This feels so unreal. That's right. Yu Hua's entire body was made of water, and no matter how Lai Gu was attacked, he would be able to instantly recover. Yu Hua swung her slender hand, and under the huge inertia of the water blade, Lai Gu was flung away. Lai Gu knocked onto the golden halo, then fell onto the ground. A muffled sound rang out. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. My 7 sins, Lai Gu was actually beaten down by a woman. This bastard. This time, I asked you to come here to gain face, not to lose face. Haha, Yu Hua well fought. When Kai Yun saw that Yu Hua was able to beat down the opponent's main force with just 1 or 2 moves, he felt great in his heart as he stood on the stool and clapped his hands. Yi Hua wanted to refute, but he was unable to find the words to say. This Lai Gu. This supreme overlord's face is completely thrown away by you. Also, how am I supposed to break this woman's innate talent? Since it is made of water, I don't know if there will be any effect if I use fire to burn it. Yu Hua looked at Lai Gu, who was not far away, with cold eyes. The water blade in her hand lightly moved horizontally on the right side, then leaned back and said in a low voice, Water flash. The water blade in Yu Hua's hand could be seen suddenly lengthening. The speed at which the water blade lengthened was extremely fast, to the point where no one was able to react in time. Furthermore, the water blade was aimed towards Lai Gu's head. The meaning behind it was already very clear. Lai Gu, who was lying on the ground, suddenly stretched out his arm and grabbed onto the tip of the water blade. The strong water pressure could be used as a cutting machine, and Yu Hua's water flash was not just a cutting machine, it seemed to be able to cut through anything. The water flowed through Lai Gu's palm, and the skin and flesh on Lai Gu's palm began to disappear, revealing Dragon Claw. Although it was not Lai Gu's main body, it was still a small-scale dragon claw. Soon after, the skin and flesh of Lai Gu's entire left arm completely disappeared, and the eerie white bones were exposed to the air, causing people to tremble with fear. Dragon flames! Lai Gu muttered, then suddenly raised his head and sprayed out a stream of fiery red flames. However, Yu Hua did not dodge at all and directly took the stream of dragon flames head-on. Lai Gu stood up. Although blood was flowing out from his chest that was penetrated by the dragon flames, it was not a big deal. However, Lai Gu's entire left arm had already been exposed to Lai Gu's main body. Thus it should not be discovered by your wife. Chapter 7:11. Dong Huang Baiji indeed didn't think in that direction. She just felt that Lai Gu's hand was different. Yehua, is Lai Gu also a skeleton? Dong Huang Baiji asked curiously. N. Yehua nodded his head, then asked, Baiji, do you like skeletons? Skeletons? I can't really say that I like it, but I feel that it's a bit horrifying. Dong Huang Baiji pursed her cherry lips. Although I don't dislike skeletons, I still don't feel comfortable looking at them. Hearing what the Empress said, Yehua became a bit gloomy. She actually doesn't like skeletons? I, the Supreme Overlord, am also a skeleton. In actuality, Dong Huang Baiji was talking about other people. If Yehua was a skeleton, he would definitely not be able to adapt to the appearance of Dong Huang Baiji. However, Dong Huang Baiji would only be able to adapt to Dong Huang Baiji's appearance. No matter what, Dong Huang Baiji was still Dong Huang Baiji's husband. At the scene, Moonlight was madly burned by the bone-cracking dragon flame. Outside, only one person could be seen standing in the dragon flame. Lai Gu secretly took a glance at his honor and discovered that his honor's complexion wasn't very good. Just now, I was too careless, and ended up getting abused by my future wife. However, under this king's dragon flames, no matter how powerful the water is, it will be extinguished. Yu Hua, it's fine if you admit defeat now. Just obediently be my wife. Lai Gu shouted towards the fire. The flaming moonlight essence didn't reply immediately. Instead, it said indifferently, water flash. Split. Lai Gu was startled. Countless water blades actually appeared within the dragon flames, and that densely packed look caused Lai Gu's scalp to go numb. Seems like he has trypophobia. Lai Gu didn't plan to use his body to block the attack, and directly started running. However, those countless water blades actually chased after Lai Gu. No matter what kind of difficult posture Lai Gu made, those water blades still chased after him relentlessly. This caused Lai Gu to be stupefied. If I wasn't worried that my body would be exposed, would I still be in such a sorry state? Yu Hua shouted, and the dragon flame surrounding her suddenly disappeared. Looking at Yu Hua, she was completely fine. Looking at Yu Hua's current state, Yi Hua was thinking in his heart, would it be effective if I used the strange flame? However, the might of Lai Gu's dragon flame was already very close to that of an alien flame. This Yu Hua was actually able to withstand it. She was truly formidable. This nameless flag is indeed different from the rest. I'm really curious what kind of abilities they have. Lai Gu couldn't care so much anymore. His body suddenly dived towards Yu Hua's body, and the sharp claws on his left hand emitted a cold light. With a light wave, 3 beams of cold light shot towards Yu Hua. Boom! The entire Nan Wu flag trembled. 3 rays of cold light pierced through Yu Hua's delicate body and into the ground, coming out from underneath the flag. If it was someone with a body of flesh and blood, there was a 99% chance that they would have died. However, today, Lai Gu's opponent was Moonlight, who was made of water. Yu Hua's body was divided into 3 parts. With the naked eye, Yu Hua's body was filled with water. That was exactly what they said. There is so much water. Looking at Yu Hua's appearance, Lai Gu was a little happy. This should be considered as a defeat, right? However, the moonlight that followed after caused Lai Gu's scalp to go numb. It could be seen that the moonlight that was split into 3 parts was actually growing. Then they turned into 3 standing moons. This caused Lai Gu to be dumbstruck. Countless water blades fiercely struck onto Lai Gu's back, and Lai Gu's entire body felt as if he was rammed by a truck and was fiercely smashed into the ground. At this moment, Yi Hua was also stupefied. This woman actually has this kind of innate talent. Lai Gu's attack is completely useless against her. Just now it was only 1 attack, and now, it actually became 3. Just that I don't know if this kind of increase will affect my strength or not. In Yi Hua's impression, this kind of multiple clones will only cause my strength to be divided. I might as well just become one. Lai Gu, who was smashed onto the ground, seemed to be completely fine. His white bones were already revealed on his back, looking very terrifying. You. Why did it become 3? Lai Gu stood up, pointed at the moonlight and asked. The 3 moonlights looked at Lai Gu silently, and the moonlight in the middle said faintly, "It is only 3. Damn. Could it be that there are still more?" Lai Gu was very excited. I picked up a treasure this time. I really picked up a treasure. This moonlight actually has this kind of ability. Wouldn't I feel great? In my mind, I imagined countless moonlights lying on the bed and waving at me. That scene will definitely be very great. I am already beaten to this state, yet Lai Gu is still fantasizing. As expected of a dragon. However, Lai Gu encountered a difficult problem right now. How am I going to defeat this woman? She is actually invulnerable. This is simply too much of a counter to me. As a dragon, Lai Gu was able to use powerful magic in the past, but after becoming an undead, he was actually unable to use any magic at all. The only thing he could use was that mouthful of thick phlegm. Although he was unable to use any magic, his strength received a boost, allowing him to be invincible in the sky. However, facing against the moonlight, Lai Gu felt that he had no advantage at all, and was completely restrained by his opponent. What should I do? Death Mage is able to fight to a draw, but I can't fight to a draw. No matter what, I am one of the 7 sins. Fighting to a draw is too embarrassing. I have to think of a way. Yihua was also worried for Lai Gu right now. He felt that the talent of the moonlight is too much of a counter to Lai Gu. After all, Lai Gu is a normal player, his battle power in the sky is very strong. But this isn't an aerial battle, Lai Gu's advantage is unable to be displayed. Furthermore, this moonlight seems to be immune to physical attacks. This is very vexing. If I knew that this would be the case, I wouldn't have brought along two subordinates that are purely physical attacks. I should have changed Lai Gu to Wei Chong, that way, it would have been more dependable. It's my miscalculation. Yihua, this woman is very strong. Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but say. Yihua nodded his head. If I knew that this would be the case, I would have given Lai Gu some things to use. Lai Gu doesn't have any? He only likes gold and women. Yihua said helplessly. Lai Gu's greatest interest was to collect shiny things. After that, it would be women. Donghuang Baiji was very speechless. Someone that likes gold and women, isn't that a dragon? Seems like your little brother can't do it. Kai Yun opened a bottle of Lihaha AD calcium milk and started drinking it. Yihua sneered. Your little brother doesn't seem to be able to do it either. Cough cough cough. Kai Yun choked. He was about to be angered to death by Yihua. Humph. Kai Yun could only snort, expressing that he was unhappy. I will stew your subordinate later. Although Kai Yun was thinking like this, he was also very surprised. This man is not wearing any armor, and yet, he is still able to withstand Moonlight's attack. Even if he is a bone dragon, he did not reveal his true form. If he were to reveal his true form, his attack and defense would be increased by 100 times. However, my Moonlight did not reveal her true form either. The restraint of one's true form is the most troublesome. When one reaches their level of strength, restraint is a fatal injury. Just like how White Bones was unable to do anything to Deathmage just now. Right now, Lai Gu was unable to do anything to Moonlight. Chapter 7:12. At this moment, Yuhua didn't know what Lai Gu was thinking about in his mind, and she thought that the astonished gaze was because of her own strength. How many can you transform into at most? Lai Gu asked with a slightly trembling voice. This woman is definitely mine. This talent is simply tailor-made for me. Lai Gu. Hearing Lai Gu's fearful tone, Yuhua revealed out a light smile. This caused Lai Gu to almost drool, as if he had once again become that lecherous dog from back then. You can have as many as you want, Yuhua said calmly. Lai Gu's heart was thumping madly. This is F*King hinting at me crazily. Good fellow. You are even more anxious than me, Lai Gu. Why don't we change to another location and spar for a bit? If I, Lai Gu, were to soften and fall to the ground, it would be my loss. In the future, you will be my woman. Lai Gu was extremely heroic, and no longer suppressing his strength erupted out crazily. The violent spiritual pressure covered the sky, and the entire Nanwu flag trembled violently. Cracks appeared on the tall stairs, and they began to break apart. It came crashing down. Under Lai Gu's pressure, that layer of golden barrier also shattered. At this moment, Lai Gu's expression was filled with madness, and it seemed like he wanted to ruthlessly rub the woman in front of him against the ground. The terrifying wind blew off the roof of the Namo no Flag Hall. Lucifer and Miller immediately put up their defenses, and so did Kenta Nakata. Even so, his body was moving slowly, as if he was about to be blown away by the wind. Kai Yun turned his head around and looked at his own palace. The roof of the palace is gone. Ah! My house! Compensate me! Kai Yun shouted towards Lai Gu, looking as if he wanted to kill Lai Gu. Fortunately, Luo Ho, who was behind Kai Yun, managed to hold Flagmaster back. However, they were also shocked by the aura released by Lai Gu. Because right now, Lai Gu had yet to reveal his true form, and the power that he could produce was already so huge. If he were to release his true form, it would be even more terrifying. It turned out that this fellow had been concealing his strength all along. He harbored ulterior motives. The people of southern Wuxia were indeed surprised, but they were not frightened. They seemed to be quite confident in Moonlight Flower. Donghuang Baiji was also a bit startled. Lai Gu's strength had exceeded her expectations. Furthermore, why does this aura feel so familiar? Yihua probably still didn't know that the oppressive might that Lai Gu released had already caused his wife to be puzzled. Luckily, it was only a slight puzzlement and didn't think too much into it. Yihua, who was standing in front of Lai Gu, had a sunken expression on her face. The strength of this man in front of me has exceeded my estimation. He is very strong. Looking at Yuhua's surprised gaze, Lai Gu grinned and said, "Future wife. Did you tremble in fear under my power? After you defeat me, you can say such big words again," Yuhua said calmly, as if she was not afraid at all. "That's good. I'll show you today. With the power of your man, I will teach you how to be a wife." Just as he finished speaking, Lai Gu's body suddenly exploded, and the entire ground instantly collapsed. Kai Yun covered onto his face. "My Nanwu flag. You guys have to pay for it." Lai Gu, who went all out, was indeed very valiant. Regardless of whether it was speed or strength, both of them received very good bonuses. But more and more moonlight appeared on the scene. After Lai Gu slashed 1, it became 2, and after slashing 2, it became 4, never ending. However, not only was Lai Gu not depressed, he became more and more excited. So much water. This woman is mine. Ha ha ha. Right now, Yihua was not happy, because this moonlight was too overpowered. Fortunately, Lai Gu's defense was overpowered, otherwise, he would definitely lose. Because this moonlight clone was actually as strong as the main body, this was something that Yihua had never seen before. However, in the Nanwu flag, moonlight was only ranked 3rd. That Song Kong Hong who spoke very slowly, and that scarecrow Kwang Sha, what was their innate skill? This made Yihua have the idea of accepting them. This would greatly increase the strength of my team, especially that White Bones, who is a natural scout. This Nanwu flag is indeed a bit interesting. After Lai Gu slashed the moonlight once again. This time, the moonlight did not continue to clone itself, and instead, it healed itself. And it's not splitting itself anymore? Lai Gu asked doubtfully. Moonlight's clone was not limitless. If it was limitless, wouldn't it be invincible? Looking at the entire scene, there should be 100 moonlights surrounding Lai Gu. Right now, Yuhua didn't want to speak anymore. This man is indeed very powerful. All of the attacks that landed on his body were completely useless, and my clone is being struck out limitlessly. How can there be such a person in Voidless Realm? Isn't he a bone dragon? Future wife, do you think that it will be fine if you don't speak? Although I am unable to deal any damage to you, your limitless recovery will consume some of its energy, right? I don't believe that you will be able to continuously heal yourself. I will be able to fight with you until dawn. Lai Gu roared angrily and prepared to teach this future wife of his a lesson. Serving a man properly is what you should do. Lai Gu's hands could be seen transforming into sharp claws as he shouted out, "Invincible circle spinning." Yihua couldn't help but mutter, "This name sure is low." This was just Lai Gu's improvisation. Lai Gu could be seen spinning 360 degrees, and a biting cold claw wind engulfed the entire stage, slicing everything apart, including those 100 moonlights. However, this time, the moonlight did not continue to heal itself. It turned into clear water and flowed onto the ground. This caused Lai Gu's brows to become wrinkled. What does this mean? Did he give up resisting? Yuhua knew that her attacks would not be effective, and rather than continuing to fight endlessly like this, she might as well take the initiative to attack. Lai Gu looked at the clear water on the ground that was gradually fusing together, but the clear water did not take the shape of a human and flowed towards him. The hell? What are you trying to do? Lai Gu's sharp claws slashed onto the clear water crazily, but there was no effect. In actuality, both of their attacks were unable to deal any damage to each other. Yuhua seemed to be innately immune to all physical attacks, while Lai Gu relied on his powerful strength to forcefully resist the attacks of the moonlight. However, from strength and defense, it could be seen that Lai Gu still had the advantage. However, looking at the current situation, Lai Gu's scalp went a little numb. No matter what, I am unable to get rid of the clear water that was formed by the moonlight. The clear water kept rushing towards me, seemingly wanting to swallow me. Just as Lai Gu was panicking, a lump of clear water appeared from behind and stuck onto Lai Gu's back. Then, it turned into a stream of water and connected with the clear water on the ground. You, future wife, what are you doing? Lai Gu was a little panicked as he patted away the water on his body, but there was no effect. Lai Gu couldn't help but say, "Future wife, you sure have a lot of water." Not long later, Lai Gu was enveloped by the moonlight. Chapter 7:13. Lai Gu was like a person in the water. He was a bit stupefied. This future wife of mine actually wanted to drown me with water. This is truly a bit scary. However, Lai Gu thought too much. The water in the package actually seeped into Lai Gu's body. In the blink of an eye, the water disappeared. Lai Gu stood on the spot blankly and looked at the dumbstruck his honor. Isn't this a bit too impatient? Since you have intercourse with my milk, and fused with me. But fused with me, who the hell am I going to look for? This move won't do, that move is still the best. Just when Lai Gu was laughing happily, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. When did my hand raise up, and it was clenched into a fist? Bang! Lai Gu immediately punched himself with his right hand, his body smashed onto the wall, and then South Wuxia was penetrated through. My South Wuxia! Kai Yun shouted while holding on to his chest. However, this was not the end. Lai Gu started a self-torture mode, from the sky to the ground, and then from the ground to the sky. The entire South Wuxia was riddled with holes, causing Kai Yun's heart to break. Yi Hua's expression was heavy, and he remained silent. Meanwhile, Dong Huang Baiji lightly held onto her husband's hand and comforted him. This is Yue Hua's main body. To actually be able to control others. To even be able to control my Lai Gu, this kind of main body is too scary. If she were to control my main body, Yi Hua doesn't know if he would be able to resist it. I feel that what I came into contact with before is just the tip of the iceberg. This time, the shock that South Wuxia brought to me is still astonishing. Not knowing how long had passed, Lai Gu finally returned. His entire face was already beaten into a pig's head by me, and it was filled with blood. Yue Hua, you tortured me thousands of times, but I treated you as my true love. Lai Gu muttered, then coughed out blood. Bang! Another punch. It felt as if Yue Hua was taking revenge on Lai Gu. Although Lai Gu was beaten up very badly by me, it wasn't fatal, and it was just some superficial wounds. Yue Hua, I really like you. Lai Gu's teeth were knocked out, and his words were a bit leaky. Right after he finished speaking, Lai Gu punched towards his stomach, and his eyeballs almost popped out. Lai Gu still didn't give up. Yue Hua, even if you beat me to death, I will still like you. However, what she did next made all the men's buttocks go cold. Lai Gu could be seen doing the monkey steals peach technique towards Yi Hua. This caused Lai Gu's face to turn pale with fright, and he hurriedly said, Yi Hua, let's talk things out, you must not touch this thing. Yi Hua looked at Lai Gu, who was at a loss of what to do, and sank into contemplation. How should I break this move of Yi Hua's? There must be a way, just that he hadn't figured it out yet. Lai Gu was in a panic. I have already lost control of my body, unless I reveal my true form. However, if I reveal my true form, his honor is going to be subjected to domestic violence. Your honor, subordinate didn't hesitate to lose my treasures because of you. Subordinate is willing to do my utmost for your honor. Later on, you must definitely give me a big one, the big and thick kind. The veins on Lai Gu's forehead were bulging. He was trying his best to regain control of his body, but it was King useless. Yue Hua, don't mess around. You really can't do this. According to the rules of Jianghu, you can't hit the lower body. Lai Gu had no other choice and could only spout nonsense. His manhood was grabbed. Any man would have to lower his head and beg for forgiveness. Your honor, save me. Lai Gu shouted out towards Yi Hua, who was on the viewing platform. This woman is too perverted to actually dare to hold back such a move. Yi Hua directly ignored him. If you explode later on, I will give you an even bigger one. Lai Gu was already about to go crazy, to the point that he was faintly about to reveal his true form. Yi Hua felt that Lai Gu was about to do this and scolded Lai Gu in his heart. Lai Gu is also unable to control himself. No man would be able to endure this kind of situation. In any case, Lai Gu felt that as long as Lai Gu revealed his true form, Yi Hua would lose control of his body. Lai Gu felt that Yi Hua's control was only towards the human body. Right now, Yi Hua didn't want Lai Gu to reveal his true form and said, there is no meaning in fighting like this next round. How is there no meaning? I feel that it is very interesting. I want to watch. Yuhua, don't stop. Kai Yun snorted. You want me to stop just because you said so? Isn't it very embarrassing for me? Along with Kai Yun's words, Lai Gu felt that he was going to die. He hurriedly said, Yuhua, I was wrong, I won't look for you to be my wife anymore. Speaking of which, after saying those words, Lai Gu felt a lot better. Right now, I have to take his honor into consideration, and I have to win at the same time. How is this possible? His honor, the mission that you gave me is too difficult. A water stain could be seen appearing on Lai Gu's skin, and the water slowly flowed onto the ground. After transforming into Yuhua, Yuhua was still so beautiful. Lai Gu let out a sigh of relief. This woman is so savage. Yuhua, good job. Kai Yun smiled and clapped his hands. He felt that Yuhua had helped him regain back his face, and made the other party directly admit his mistake. Yuhua revealed out a light smile towards Kai Yun, then looked towards Lai Gu and snorted coldly. Although Lai Gu didn't admit defeat, what was the difference between him saying, I was wrong, and admitting defeat? Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. Why do I feel that they are flirting with each other? Hee hee. Yihua was in a bad mood. The reason why I brought Lai Gu and Yi Zizi over was to completely defeat the other party. I didn't expect that the other party actually wanted to force Lai Gu to reveal his true form. If Donghuang Baiji wasn't here, it wouldn't matter, but the truth was that she was here. Rather than letting her see Lai Gu's true form, I might as well lose this round. I, the Supreme Overlord, don't want to experience their cold violence anymore. Lai Gu, who had a bloody nose and swollen face, slowly walked to Yihua's side. He felt that he had lost a lot of face. Even Death Mage was able to fight evenly with White Bones, and actually, Your Honor. Lai Gu didn't even know what to say anymore. Forget it, don't say any more. Yihua knew that Lai Gu was thinking for him, and thus, he didn't plan to teach Lai Gu a lesson. Stretching out his hand, Lai Gu's injuries instantly healed, and Lai Gu looked brand new. Lai Gu retreated behind Yihua with a dispirited expression. Yi Zizi, who was standing at the side, made a face at Lai Gu. Shame, shame, shame. All right, I got mocked by Yi Zizi. Big brother, your subordinate is only a... Initially, I wanted to betroth Yuhua to your subordinate, but what a pity. Kai Yun stretched out his index finger and shook it, looking very pretentious. Yuhua once again sat behind Kai Yun and hugged him in her embrace. Hearing what the flagmaster said, her beautiful face had a bit of a weird expression. Just now, it was indeed a bit awkward. If I didn't do that, how would the other party admit defeat? Just that, Yuhua was also very curious as to why Lai Gu didn't change into his true form just now. If he changed into his true form, I would have lost control of my body, and he wouldn't have to admit defeat. At the very least, it would be a draw. He can't be going easy on me, right? Thinking up to here, Yuhua's gaze looked towards Lai Gu, who was feeling wronged. Chapter 7:14. Lucifer's mind was in a daze. Such a high-intensity attack, and he is actually completely fine? This is too nonsensical, right? They can't be faking it, right? That man just lightly waved his hand, and that person's injury was healed. Can it be done like this? It's all fake. The people here are all fake. They are all actors. At this moment, Yi Zizi slowly walked out of the stage. Her beautiful dress was fluttering along with the wind, and her 2 ponytails were fluttering behind her head. He really wanted to grab those 2 ponytails and operate them crazily. If he didn't make a loss in 1 year, he would make a profit in 3 years. Yi Zizi yawned, then looked at the people from South Wuxia and asked, Who's going up? Luo Ho could be seen slowly standing up and closing the folding fan in his hand. Let me do it. Yi Zizi pursed her lips and walked down the stage step by step. Luo Ho, be careful, she is from the Taotai race. Yuhua reminded him in a low voice. I understand. Luo Ho responded, then walked down the stage and stood in front of Yi Zizi. Towards Yi Zizi, Yihua was very assured, unless this Luo Ho also had some kind of abnormal talent. At this moment, Kai Yun stopped smiling and looked very serious. After knowing Yi Zizi's race, he was still very worried. After all, the Taotai race was truly abnormal. They were able to suck people's blood, but I don't know if the energy within the elements can be sucked. If it can be sucked, then it would be completely restrained. Just like Yi Zizi's liquid, no matter what Lai Gu did, it would be useless. But if it was Yi Zizi who directly sucked it, of course, this was only a guess, and the specifics could only be known after testing it out. Luo Ho also understood this point, but he still couldn't help but go up to the stage. Because the Tao Tai race was very strong, Luo Ho wanted to challenge this kind of race. Yi Zizi did not summon her equipment and seemed to be very relaxed. Her eyes revealed a tired look, seeming as if she did not sleep well. Hurry up! Seeing that her opponent did not move, Yi Zizi couldn't help but shout out. Don't just stand there and not move. Luo Ho let out a breath, feeling a bit nervous in his heart. He waved the folding fan in his hand and shouted lightly, "Drunken chant!" The folding fan in Luo Ho's hand could be seen shining brightly, and a golden storm could be seen rushing towards Yi Zizi. Yi Zizi revealed a puzzled look. Her scarlet eyes looked very calm as she stretched out her hand and slapped. Pa! The golden storm shattered into pieces in Yi Zizi's palm. It didn't even touch the hem of her dress before it dissipated. Lai Gu was very gloomy. If the person I met just now was Luo Ho, I would also be able to act cool like this and slap the other party to death with a single hand. Luo Ho was not too disappointed. This was just a small test. This race was indeed very powerful. Even though it was still a child, it was still a powerful existence. It seemed that he would have to pay a price to defeat it. Golden Cicada Battle God. Luo Ho shouted in a low voice. The folding fan in his hand suddenly flung out. The folding fan slowly transformed in the air and turned into an eagle, which ferociously attacked Yi Zizi. Yi Zizi exhaled weakly and raised her little fist to punch the goshawk. Boom! This punch carried a scorching and ferocious aura, and the terrifying spiritual energy even blew away the clouds in the sky. The golden goshawk disappeared in an instant. It didn't even have the chance to attack. Luo Ho's eyes darkened. Was their race so ferocious? Of course, even Yi Hua had to weigh Yi Zizi's strength. In fact, he wasn't even Yi Zizi's opponent in terms of strength. And Yi Zizi's strength was above Lai Gu's, and it seemed like she could settle everything with a single punch. What a violent little lowly. Seeing that Yi Zizi had the upper hand, Yi Hua was very happy in his heart and kissed the empress who was in his embrace. Donghuang Baiji was very shy. Kissing in front of so many people seems to be the first time. Yi Hua didn't care so much. I'm just showing off my affection, so what? Seeing Yi Hua and the empress kissing, Kai Yun snorted coldly. However, he was also worried about Luo Ho's situation. This little lowly seems to be a lot stronger than the one just now. After all, Lai Gu's advantage isn't in fighting on the ground, and what Yi Zizi specializes in the most is fighting on the ground, especially in terms of strength. Hey, be more serious, at least let me warm up. Yi Zizi shouted out helplessly. If the other party only has this much ability, I will be disappointed. Luo Ho's face darkened, and at this moment, his eyes turned golden. Divine light! Luo Ho roared as a piercing golden light erupted from his eyes. Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji, who were currently kissing passionately, did not feel anything, and they were currently infatuated with the sweet kiss. However, Lai Gu, who was standing at the back, couldn't help but to close his eyes. That 18K golden light of yours is really blinding my eyes. Death Mage did not have eyes at all, so he was very calm. Lucifer and Mill reflexively stretched out their hands to block the attack, then turned their faces to the side and closed their eyes. Nakata Genta's eyes widened. It wasn't that he didn't want to close them, but it was too late. Blood flowed out of his eyes and he was instantly blinded by the dazzling golden light. Nakata Genta couldn't help but scream in pain. However, just as he shouted, a bloody line appeared on his neck. Like Miyamoto Nagatake, his head was separated from his body. White bones acted decisively to avoid disturbing the flagmaster's mood. However, at this moment, Yun Kai's eyes were also covered. When Luo Ho shouted out the divine light, Yu Hua had covered Yun Kai's eyes and also closed her own eyes. The people sitting in the back did the same, as if they had done this often in the past. However, Wild Sand, who was a scarecrow, was a bit interesting. He actually took out 2 plates to cover his eyes. This was one of Luo Ho's ultimate moves. As long as one was hit by the divine light, even if one didn't become blind, one would still be blinded for a short period of time. And right now, it was a good opportunity for Luo Ho to make his move. A double-edged golden spear could be seen appearing in Luo Ho's hands. The golden spear was silently shot out, and the blade was pointed straight at Yi Zizi's forehead. On the other hand, Yi Zizi's pair of scarlet eyes were wide open, and she didn't have any intention of closing her eyes at all. Within her scarlet eyes, the image of the golden spear could be seen. Looking at this situation, a victorious smile appeared on the corner of Luo Ho's mouth. This double-edged golden spear doesn't contain any spiritual energy, and it also doesn't emit any aura. This set of moves had killed countless experts, and it was impossible to guard against it. Right now, Yihua let go of the Empress. The Empress, who was bashful, appeared to be very embarrassed as she tightly snuggled into her husband's embrace, looking as if she didn't have the face to see anyone. What an adorable Empress! Yihua wasn't too worried. I know of Yi Zizi's abilities, and this kind of situation is very easy to deal with. Pa! Looking at this kind of scene, the corner of Kai Yun's mouth twitched. This is too illogical, right? Not only Kai Yun, even Yihua was a bit surprised. As expected of gluttony? As expected of gluttony, the strength of this race is indeed formidable. As the person involved, Luo Ho's brows wrinkled, and a look of surprise could be seen within his eyes. How is this possible? Chapter 7:15. She opened her eyes and was hit by the divine light, but it actually did not have any effect. Furthermore, he grabbed his own double-edged golden spear. That's right. Yi Zizi's right hand gripped the double-edged golden spear tightly. Crack! The golden spear turned into fragments and fell to the ground. Yi Zizi said softly, "Is there nothing else? If there's nothing else, it's my turn." Luo Ho, be careful. Kai Yun could not help but shout. Yihua's brows wrinkled. This flag master is actually shouting. You don't know the rules. Yi Zizi's 2 strands of hair had already quietly drilled into the ground, and when Luo Ho was exclaiming in surprise just now, the 2 strands of hair were currently at the back of Luo Ho's head. And when Kai Yun discovered this, he ignored the rules and shouted at Luo Ho. Luo Ho knew that something bad was about to happen when the flag master shouted at him. His body moved instantly, and Yi Zizi's 2 strands of hair missed. Luo Ho, who was floating in the air, saw the fine hairs, and the tip of the hairs was actually a kind of creature, with tiny fangs emitting a bloodthirsty aura. If it had just burrowed into his body, coupled with the Tao Tai clan's innate talent, just thinking about it really made his back turn cold. Yi Zizi glared angrily at Kai Yun, who was in the spectator stands. If it wasn't for his reminder just now, she would have already sucked him dry. At this moment, Yi Zizi was a little angry. Right when Yi Zizi was about to continue attacking, Yihua shouted out gravely, "Zizi, come back!" Hearing his honor's shout, Yi Zizi immediately retracted her berserk aura and looked coldly at Luo Ho, who was floating in the air. Yi Zizi disappeared from where she was, and soon after, she appeared behind Yihua. At this moment, Yihua's expression was gloomy as he said to Kai Yun, "You, Nan Wuxia, is only a... You have truly broadened my horizons." Kai Yun also knew that his action just now was not in accordance with the rules, but he couldn't help but remind Yihua. Thus I, the flagmaster, am not in the wrong. A little brat is just a little brat. I can't be bothered to negotiate with you. Yihua stood up and seemed to be planning to leave. I have already gained quite a lot today, and I can't be bothered to continue playing with this brat and waste my time. You're not allowed to leave. Kai Yun was anxious, his childish mentality completely exposed. Yihua turned around and sneered. Why? In any case, you're not allowed to leave. We haven't finished competing yet. Kai Yun said hurriedly. It wasn't easy for him to encounter a powerful opponent, and he didn't want him to disappear just like that. You still want to compete? Compete in what? Competing in snitching? Yihua said faintly. Kai Yun bit his lips lightly and said shamelessly. In any case, you said that I'm a little wimp, so it's normal for a little wimp to snitch on me. Yihua. This is the first time I've seen such a shameless boss. Even I, the Supreme Overlord, am unable to do such a thing. Apologize for your behavior just now. Yihua suddenly had a flash of inspiration. I feel that this is not a bad idea. Let the flagmaster of South Wuxia Banner apologize to me. It can be considered as helping Lai Gu vent his anger. Sure enough, after hearing what his honor said, Lai Gu became very excited. Flag Master apologizing to his honor. Isn't that a great thing? Seeing that Kai Yun was dumbfounded, Yihua said lightly, not going to apologize? I will be leaving then. Wait! Kai Yun shouted angrily. What a petty man. Didn't I just casually guide my subordinate a little? You're using this kind of thing to threaten me? You're too petty. You're bullying a child. A trace of an arc appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. If this kind of thing happened in the past, I would have directly chopped it with a kitchen knife. Now it was different. He could achieve the same effect in another way, and it was even more satisfying. Yihua looked towards Kai Yun and suddenly discovered that this little girl was rather interesting. Her mentality is still immature. Flag Master, Yihua said with concern. She knew the Flag Master's personality. He would do anything to fight a strong opponent. Kai Yun pursed his lips, then said towards Yihua, I'm sorry. When Lucifer heard the Flag Master's apology, he was dumbfounded. This child was too gullible. This is even possible, however, Yihua still said. I can't hear you, speak louder. Kai Yun was angered to the point that his chest was heaving up and down as he shouted out loudly towards Yihua. I'm sorry. Is that okay? For what matter? Yihua asked. Kai Yun was speechless. If you don't want to say it, then I'm leaving. You're shameless. Kai Yun pointed at Yihua and shouted out. Kai Yun's eyes had already turned red from anger. This is the first time that I, the Flag Master, feel so wronged. If you don't want to speak, I'm leaving. Yihua didn't pay any attention to him at all. I apologize for my behavior just now. I'm sorry. Is that all right? What kind of tone is this? Is this the tone of an apology? Yihua said while looking at Kai Yun's small face that had turned red from anger. Dong Huang Baiji pulled the corner of her husband's sleeve. Don't bully a child like this. Didn't I apologize already? Why would you have so many requests? Kai Yun was about to cry, and Yihua hurriedly comforted the Flag Master's wounded heart. The Flag Master really had a heart of glass. Yihua looked at the Flag Master who was about to cry and changed his strategy. It's fine if you want me to stay, but how about we make a bet? Yihua said. What bet? When Kai Yun heard that Yihua was going to stay behind, he instantly smiled again. His expression was even faster than flipping the pages of a book. Yihua said indifferently, Let's have a fight. If you win, it's up to you, but if I win, you guys will recognize me as your boss. Lai Gu, who was at the back, muttered, I'll teach you to comb your hair in the middle. Dong Huang Baiji was a bit astonished. I didn't expect that her husband was planning to do this. However, this is not a bad idea. These people are all very powerful, and coupled with their strange race's innate skill, it is very hard for people to guard against them. Lucifer was shocked. He did not expect this man to want to take South Wuxia for himself. His appetite was way too big. No, it should be said that his ambition was way too big, right? After Kai Yun heard what Yihua said, he was clearly shocked. However, very quickly, he came back to his senses and said, All right. This time, it was Yihua's turn to be shocked. To agree so quickly, there can't be any tricks, right? Yihua was thinking too much. Kai Yun's personality was just like this. Looking at those subordinates of his, they didn't seem to be surprised at all when the Flag Master agreed to the bet. If you lose, you have to be my horse, Kai Yun said to Yihua with a smile. His face was very excited. Yihua laughed. In the entire world, there are too few people who are able to make me lose. Haha, I am one of those people. That better be the case. Don't disappoint me too much. Yihua's hands were a bit itchy. The last time I used my full strength was with Yi Zizi. Today, it seems like I have to do it again. I am a bit excited. Dong Huang Baiji was still a bit worried about her husband. She said tenderly, Yihua, be careful. Sit here and wait for me. Wait for you? Dong Huang Baiji asked confusedly. Chapter 7:16. Dong Huang Baiji understood and obediently sat at the side, waiting for her husband's triumphant return. Meanwhile, Yihua casually waved his hand, and all of the people in the surroundings disappeared, leaving behind only the tattered Namo flag and Kai Yun. It wasn't that Yi Hua had teleported them away, but rather, he had created an illusory realm that was exactly the same as Yi Hua and Kai Yun. In Donghuang Baiji's eyes, they were still sitting there, just that Yi Hua and Kai Yun had disappeared. Right now, Wu Qi's brows were slightly wrinkled. Since Yi Hua wasn't around, Donghuang Baiji's position as the empress quietly spread out. It seemed to be saying, if you dare to make a move, don't blame me for making a move. The atmosphere seemed to freeze in an instant. Lucifer, who was sitting at the side, did not say a word. He picked up his chopsticks and ate. You guys can argue. I can't see anything. I can't hear anything. Just leave obediently later. At this moment in the illusion, Yi Hua looked at Kai Yun, and Kai Yun looked at Yi Hua angrily. The two of them stared at each other, as if they were comparing whose doom stare was more powerful. After quite a while, Yi Hua felt that he was very stupid, to actually compare eyes with a child. You are very formidable. Kai Yun gradually retracted his smile, and his expression became deep as he slowly landed not far away from Yi Hua. Such a Kai Yun caused Yi Hua to go into a slight daze. As expected, that frivolous appearance of his was just an act. I know, I don't need you to remind me, Yi Hua said faintly. The corner of Kai Yun's mouth twitched. He had really never seen such an arrogant person before. His eyelids drooped as he made a face. I don't believe you. Looking at Kai Yun, who was making a funny face at him, Yi Hua felt that it would be better to change her character setting to that of a Chinibyu girl. Then come. My time is very precious, Yi Hua said lightly, then waved his hand. Many illusory images could be seen appearing in the surroundings, and as Yi Hua's fingers moved, the illusory images could be seen rolling about. All of them were weapons and equipment. Looking at Yi Hua's actions, Kai Yun was shocked for a moment, and then he shouted out loudly. Do you even need to wear equipment? You can wear it too, Yi Hua said faintly. Kai Yun pursed her small lips. But I didn't. If that's the case, I'll lend you one then. Don't say that I'm bullying you, Yi Hua said faintly. Really? This is great. Kai Yun happily ran towards Yi Hua and began choosing his equipment. He was really dazzled by the choices. This color is too bright. It doesn't suit me. This definitely won't look good on me. It's like bearing fangs and brandishing claws. This is too revealing. I'm still a kid. This looks really heavy. It will definitely slow me down in battle. Yi Hua's expression gradually darkened, and he couldn't help but shout out, Do you want it or not? Stop grumbling. Don't scold me, I will choose, all right? Kai Yun pouted her small mouth, then pointed at a thin armor. This is it. Yi Hua did not say anything. With a wave of his hand, the golden leather silk covered Kai Yun's body. Wow, it's really beautiful. Kai Yun spun around happily, and then asked, Is it nice? Yi Hua replied faintly, Average. Humph, it's obviously pretty. Kai Yun pouted. He actually took out his phone and stood at the side to take a selfie, even showing a peace sign. Yi Hua was a bit gloomy. This golden leather silk is a pretty good prehistoric artifact. Its defensive function isn't that great, but against fire attribute attacks, it is able to achieve an astonishing effect. This also means that my deviant fire won't be able to deal any destructive damage to her. I, the Supreme Overlord, actually shot myself in the foot again. Act cool. It will be even better if I lose later on. This Flagmaster's luck is too good, it's really inexplicable. For himself, Yi Hua chose an armor that had an ordinary defense, but a powerful magic defense armor. The armor was called Mu Wangjia. The entire armor covered him from head to toe. The color was rather good, and there was also a cape on his back, showing off his heroic spirit. Right now, he had to choose a weapon that matched with this armor. Wow, so handsome. Kai Yun kept his phone and looked towards Yi Hua, and couldn't help but praise. I know, there's no need to remind me, Yi Hua replied faintly. Kai Yun looked at the golden leather silk that he was wearing, and seemed to be a bit dissatisfied. Then, can I change into a more handsome one? No. Yi Hua immediately rejected. Since you got it, it is your good fortune, you should properly cherish this good fortune. Humph, stingy. You. Yi Hua's nose became crooked from anger. I gave you equipment to wear, and you still say that I am stingy. Seeing that Yi Hua was angry, Kai Yun was very happy and bounced around. Hurry up, I still want to play games. Yi Hua grabbed onto one of the axes. When Yi Hua took out the axes, the scene immediately pervaded out with ghostly wails and wolf howls. Countless resentful spirits spread out in all directions and floated in the sky. What kind of weapon is this? Kai Yun sensed the hostility of those resentful spirits, and thus, he asked curiously. Soul-devouring Buddha glaze. Yi Hua said faintly. This is a prehistoric artifact that collects resentful spirits. Every time a person is killed, the soul will be imprisoned within the axe, and the soul will become its slave and fight for it. Therefore, this is a prehistoric artifact that has no moral bottom line. The person who created this artifact is not a good person. He is simply a scum. At least, this is what I, the Supreme Overlord, think so. Kai Yun looked at the sky and felt the helplessness of those resentful spirits, then said faintly, "You are so evil, to actually use this kind of weapon." Yi Hua. This isn't mine. But you are using it. What's wrong with me using it? That's why you are evil. Yi Hua. I feel that I am unable to communicate with this girl anymore. Generation gap. A deep generation gap. Looking at Kai Yun's disdainful gaze, Yi Hua kept the soul-devouring Buddha glaze. This Supreme Overlord isn't someone that a brat like you can look down on. Seeing that Yi Hua kept the soul-devouring Buddha glaze, Kai Yun grinned. Meanwhile, Yi Hua casually chose a machete that was emitting a silver light. That ferocious blade was rather scary. Wow, what is this? Kai Yun couldn't help but ask. Yi Hua felt that he was going to be tortured to death by Kai Yun. Why do you have so many questions? I'm just curious. Kai Yun said softly while tiptoeing. Looking at Kai Yun's wronged look, Yi Hua said faintly, "This machete's name is Invincible. What use does it have?" Kai Yun asked curiously. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth slightly rose. Hee, why don't you ask me how I am going to spank your butt later on? If you don't want to say, then don't say. You even spank my butt. Shameless, I will tell your wife. Yi Hua. Are you still going to spank me or not? Yi Hua couldn't help but shout out. This Kai Yun has already successfully enraged me. Spank, spank, spank. I also want to unsheath my weapon. Right after Kai Yun finished speaking, two long swords appeared in his hands. The two swords were red and blue, and the swords were slightly shorter than ordinary long swords. However, Yi Hua felt that the swords weren't normal. Seeking monthly votes. Chapter 717. The two swords, one red and one blue, were slightly shorter than ordinary long swords, but Yi Hua felt that they were unusual. What is this? Yi Hua asked. Tisk, TSK, I'm not telling you. Kai Yun stuck out her tongue, looking as if she wanted to anger him to death. Looking at Kai Yun's cheeky smile, Yi Hua felt that he was going to explode from anger. Kai Yun pouted. Seeing that you're so angry, I'll be merciful and tell you. No need, I don't want to listen to it right now. Yi Hua gradually stabilized his state of mind. My state of mind was actually affected by a little girl. This is truly strange. Could it be that this was the innate talent of her race? Ever since the original body saw her, he had been led around by her. There were even a few times when he almost couldn't help but make a move. Thinking up to here, Yi Hua's heart became slightly heavy. An innate talent that is able to affect a person's state of mind, this is a bit interesting. After all, if one's state of mind was affected in battle, the consequences would be very bad. One would not be able to display their full strength. Kai Yun snorted. That won't do. I want to tell you. Along with Kai Yun's words, Yi Hua felt that his heart became a lot more irritable, just like how he would treat a disobedient child. He wanted to whip her and fiercely teach her a lesson on how to be an obedient girl. Yi Hua didn't make a sound as he tightly held onto the invincible great sword in his hand. The silver light that was being emitted from the invincible great sword was getting more and more intense, which represented that Yi Hua's anger was getting bigger and bigger. This undefeatable daimyo was very unique. The greater the anger of the wielder, the more berserk the might of the undefeatable daimyo would be. The undefeatable daimyo that Yi Hua unintentionally took out just happened to be suitable for this battle. Because, it was just as Yi Hua had thought, Kaiyun's race's innate skill was precisely to affect a person's state of mind, causing them to be unable to fight with a peace of mind. Although compared to the Five Flags race's innate skill, in a high-level battle, the slightest bit of inattentiveness would be able to determine one's life and death. This was a powerful passive talent. My twin swords are called Red Fong and Blue Heavy. You have to be careful, Kaiyun revealed out a ghastly smile, causing Yihua's mood to become a bit gloomy. Towards the change in his mood, Yihua felt helpless. In the past, when he was fighting, his heart would be as calm as still water, and there would not be any ripples in his heart. However, today, his heart was filled with different kinds of emotions, and this was not a good thing. Yihua snorted coldly, then waved the name Undefeated in his hand. Boom! The entire Nanwu flag was split in half by the slash. The neat cut line was breathtaking. It was like cutting tofu. Just like that, the two of them floated in the air. Meanwhile, Kaiyun watched as his nameless flag descended, kicking up a huge cloud of dust. Although he knew that it was fake, he still felt very displeased, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. You pay! Kaiyun shouted out, and her body suddenly burst forth as she charged towards Yihua. Humph! You came just in time. Let me teach you how to be an honest girl. Yihua's right hand shook, and the invincible daimyo's blade chi suddenly burst out, bringing along a surging aura as it attacked towards Kaiyun. Kaiyun completely disregarded this aura and directly dispersed it, and the red-toothed blue sword in his hand slashed straight toward Yihua. Yihua's gaze sunk. This Kaiyun's target is actually the undefeated daimyo in my hands? What does this mean? Shouldn't she be attacking him directly? With doubt in his heart, Yihua waved the invincible great name that was in his hand, and the invincible great name that was shining with a silver splendor was like a rainbow, and the invincible great name sliced through the clouds. Clang! The two top-notch weapons clashed together, and huge ripples appeared. The entire ground was unable to withstand such an aura, and signs of cracking began to appear. This was also the reason why Yihua wanted to come to the illusory realm to fight. If it was in the real world, the losses that would be caused would be extremely huge, and even a lot of lives would be lost. Yihua also didn't want innocent humans to die in the battle between him and Kaiyun. This first clash allowed Yihua to have a slight understanding of Kaiyun's battle strength. However, wasn't it the same for Kaiyun as well? The two of them were both probing each other. Yihua felt that this Kaiyun was very strong, to the extent that he could even be compared with Yi Zizi. As expected of a figure from the ancient era, he is really not bad. Just as Yihua was guessing, the invincible daimyo on his right hand seemed to have become a bit heavier. At the very least, the weight was much heavier than before. What kind of situation is this? While Yihua was absent-minded, Kaiyun shouted out in a low voice, Heaven Soaring Cannon! A terrifying energy could be seen gathering in Kaiyun's small mouth, and before Yihua could react, the pure white heaven-soaring cannon smashed onto the Reverend King's armor that Yihua was wearing. The Reverend King's armor that was intersecting with gold and red instantly absorbed quite a lot of energy, but Yihua was still sent flying by this terrifying energy and fiercely smashed onto the surface of the ground. This degree of impact was not inferior to the fall of a meteor, and everything within a circumference of 100 miles was affected by the impact, causing the ground to tremble violently. Kaiyun stood in the air and lowered his head to look at the huge crater, his face filled with excitement. He shouted out, Continuous heaven-soaring cannon! Pu-pu-pu! A series of heaven-soaring cannons shot out from Kaiyun's small mouth and smashed onto the surface of the ground. The intensity of the attacks caused cracks to appear on the surface of the ground, like valleys, as if the entire continent was going to be separated. Kaiyun, who was in the midst of excitement, suddenly paused. He felt that there was great danger behind him, and his body actually turned 180 degrees. However, his head didn't turn, and his red teeth and blue armor blocked in front of him. Yihua held onto his blade with both hands and fiercely chopped down. Bang! Yihua's indignant strike caused Kaiyun's small figure to plummet down like a meteor, and a mountain range seemed to have been chiseled under Kaiyun's impact. Stretching out his index finger, Yihua said faintly, Bone Crusher! With a swoosh, a silver thread shot out from Yihua's index finger, and the silver thread was completely invisible to the naked eye. This silver thread attacked toward Kaiyun's small figure, and Kaiyun also felt the danger. He immediately stabilized his body, and the red teeth that was in his left hand pierced toward the silver thread that was coming at him. The silver thread was like a noodle that was split into two, and under the attack of the red teeth, it wasn't able to release any effect. Meanwhile, Yi Hua, who was standing in the air, didn't have a good expression on his face, because the undefeated great name on his right hand had become heavier again. Why is it like this? Just what kind of effect does her weapon have, to actually be able to make my weapon heavier? Kai Yun slowly floated up and asked curiously, "Don't you feel that your weapon has become heavier?" "I know that you are curious, that's why I didn't tell you." After finished speaking, Kai Yun instantly attacked, and his target was still the undefeated great name that was in Yi Hua's hand. Yi Hua, who was in close combat, only knew how to hack and slash, and he didn't know how to use other martial techniques. However, even if it was a technique like hacking and slashing, Yi Hua was still able to send Kai Yun flying earlier. If Kai Yun learned martial techniques, he wouldn't have just sent Kai Yun flying earlier. I, the Supreme Overlord, was only doing close combat for fun. After all, close combat is still very fun. I am used to long-range combat, and I need to change my taste. Ghost 8 consecutive slash. Kai Yun decided not to tell Yi Hua. Just now I was going to tell Yi Hua out of goodwill, and yet, Yi Hua still had that disdainful look on his face. Damn it! The red teeth and blue teeth shone brightly, and an enormous rumbling sound rang out. Kai Yun's speed could be seen to be frighteningly fast, and he disappeared from his original spot. Yi Hua's state of mind was a bit unstable, and it was all caused by Kai Yun. Without thinking too much, Yi Hua directly slashed toward his back. Chapter 7:18. Boom! A powerful shockwave suddenly erupted, and within a circumference of 100 miles, there was no longer a single piece of flat land. Yi Hua felt that the invincible name in his hands had become a bit heavier, and he even had to use more strength to hold on to it. However, Kai Yun's attacks were getting faster and faster, and Yi Hua had to expend a lot of effort to hold on to it. Because of the weight, Yi Hua's speed was affected, and even his movements of swinging his sword had become a lot slower. This Kai Yun has some skills. Are you unable to pick up your sword soon? Kai Yun leaped backwards and looked towards Yi Hua with a sly smile on his face. Yi Hua was indeed having a hard time holding on to the invincible name in his hands. Every time they collided, the weight of his weapon would multiply. This multiplying effect was very terrifying. It wasn't as simple as 1 plus 1. Yi Hua felt that if he were to put down the sword in his hands, it would directly pierce through the ground. It was too heavy. Kai Yun brandished the blue sword in his hands and said with a light smile, "As long as my weapon comes into contact with your sword, it will multiply the weight of your sword until you can't pick it up anymore. Furthermore, it seems like you can't pick it up anymore if you touch it again." Hearing Kai Yun's words, Yi Hua thought to himself, as expected, this kind of weapon is still very rare. What a rare ancient artifact. Yi Hua said faintly, "Then you might not know, but I have countless of weapons like this." And Kai Yun was confused. The invincible name in Yi Hua's hands disappeared, and a jet-black spear appeared in his hands. Broken pulse. Yi Hua held onto the spear with both hands, and the ancient artifact in his hands released a radiance that belonged to it. Humph, acting shamelessly against a brat. Shame on you. Kai Yun made a face at Yi Hua. Yi Hua's state of mind was affected again, and he said gravely, "There's no need to talk about feelings with a brat like you. TSK. Then I'll let you continue to change weapons until you don't have any left." Kai Yun shouted, and his figure once again burst forth. His target was still the broken pulse in Yi Hua's hands. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth raised into a trace of a smile, and the tip of the spear pressed straight towards the blue sword in Kai Yun's right hand. At this moment, Kai Yun was a little confused. The other party clearly knows the advantage of my weapon, so why did he reveal such a big flaw and even directly attack me? Although he was confused, Kai Yun didn't think too much, and the blue sword in his right hand directly stabbed towards the broken pulse. The collision of the weapons once again erupted with a terrifying aura, and the ground was once again deeply sunk by this powerful pressure. Kai Yun's face was filled with shock as he looked at Yi Hua. Yi Hua sneered, "Your blue heavy vein is indeed very rare, but the broken vein in my hands is not bad either. It can devour all weapon abilities. Although it has also become heavier, your blue weight should have also become heavier." You're so sly. I don't like you." Kai Yun was very angry, but in his heart, he marveled at the other party's capital. Where did he get so many good things? If he could snatch them all, wouldn't that be great? I don't need your love. Yi Hua took the initiative to attack. This time, it was Yi Hua's turn to aim at Kai Yun's Lan Zhong, while Kai Yun desperately protected Lan Zhong's right hand. However, no matter how they tried to protect themselves, it was inevitable that they would come into contact with each other. Thus, the heavy blue spear in Kai Yun's hands became heavier and heavier, and it was the same for Broken Meridian in Yi Hua's hands. However, what Yi Hua was competing with was his strong foundation. Thus, there was nothing for Yi Hua to worry about. You're shameless. Kai Yun, panting with rage, began to shoot his mouth off again. Yi Hua couldn't be bothered with Kai Yun and continued to attack. After a short while, Kai Yun directly kept his blue heavy vein. I truly can't hold it anymore, and yet, this man in front of me actually still has the strength to hold it. Yi Hua looked at Kai Yun keeping his blue heavy vein, then kept his broken vein as well. However, this time, he didn't take out his weapon. Just now, I just wanted to teach this girl who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson. Seeing that Yi Hua didn't take out his weapon, Kai Yun asked confusedly, "Are you going to raise your hands and surrender?" You might not know, but what I specialize in isn't weapons, but my hands. Yi Hua slowly stretched out his hands, and 10 different kinds of deviant flames appeared on his 10 fingers. Looking at the deviant flames on Yi Hua's fingers, Kai Yun became grave. Why do you have so many deviant flames? Become my underling, I'll tell you. Yi Hua said indifferently. Kai Yun shouted out, her small face a bit sinister. Who wants to become your underling? I'm going to hack you to death. Yi Hua didn't block, and he didn't even take any defensive measures. The red tooth in Kai Yun's hand directly pierced onto the Reverend King's armor. Kai Yun's small face was filled with excitement. You were too careless. You are about to die. As long as my red tooth continuously attacks the same spot, the target will be shattered into pieces. You can give it a try. Yi Hua said lightly. That indifferent tone caused Kai Yun to become angry. Don't look down on me. I am the flag master of South Wuxia. Kai Yun, who was in anger, once again shot out this sword, and this time, it pierced onto the same spot. Chapter 719. Yi Hua tightly gripped onto Red Tooth, and his pair of empty eyes looked towards Kai Yun. Are you curious as to why I, as an undead, am so strong? I can tell you that I don't know either. After Yi Hua finished speaking, his right hand directly grabbed onto Kai Yun's neck. Yi Hua shouted out, Kuanli Comic Fire. Green flames emerged from Yi Hua's palm and instantly enveloped Kai Yun's body, turning him into a green flaming man. Let me go. You shameless undead. Kai Yun struggled violently, but Yi Hua's 5 fingers were tightly gripping onto Kai Yun's neck. A gloomy voice came out from Yi Hua's mouth. You should feel fortunate that the golden leather silk that you are wearing has allowed you to withstand some of the damage, but this is just for a moment. Bastard. Kai Yun punched and kicked at Yi Hua's skeletal body. Don't waste your energy. Do you know the effect of the Kuanli Karma Fire? It can prevent you from releasing any spiritual energy. Right now, you are just the most ordinary little girl. After Yi Hua finished speaking, he stretched out his left hand and flicked Kai Yun's forehead. Shameless. I don't like to play with you. Kai Yun was still struggling, and the golden leather silk that was on her body was currently being burned and was gradually melting. Yi Hua said indifferently, Be my little brother and I will spare your life. I don't want to be your little brother, no. Kai Yun continued to struggle, and the clothes on his body instantly turned into ashes, revealing his underdeveloped small body. Yi Hua wasn't interested in her at all. She is simply a minor. Compared to my lovely wife, she isn't even worth looking at. Under the Kuanli karmic fire, you don't even have the chance to return to your original form. What right do you have to fight with me? Me. If you have the ability, let me go. As long as I use my main body, you're finished. Kai Yun was very unconvinced. This man actually had so many deviant flames. It must be known that even in the prehistoric era, deviant flames were extremely rare existences. This thing was a heaven-defying existence. As you wish. Kuanli Karma Fire was instantly retracted by Yi Hua, and then, Kai Yun's small body was tossed out. Kai Yun's small body was truly lacking in both chest and buttocks. Her figure was even worse than Yi Zizi's. Kai Yun didn't have any intention of being shy and glared at Yi Hua angrily. I will let you take a look at my true form. Don't be so scared that you pee in your pants. It better be so. Humph. You don't have anywhere to pee anyway. Yi Hua. As a skeleton, it didn't seem like it needed to pee. Suddenly, Kai Yun's body began to swell up. This sort of swell would make one shiver in fear. His entire belly swelled outwards, and his head and limbs seemed to be wrapped inside. The color of his body was also changing, like the volcanic rocks with shades of gray and black. Yi Hua silently looked at Kai Yun's main body. This flag master is indeed very powerful. The strength of this main body was enough to fight against his 7 deadly sins. Taking him in as a follower would not be considered a loss of face. It was just that his figure was a little lacking. However, Yi Zizi should also be very happy. After all, there was a girl with a worse figure than her. Otherwise, Yi Zizi would always complain that she couldn't grow up. Wave after wave of boundless aura spiraled around the world, and it seemed as if the entire world was going to collapse. Yi Hua even felt that the illusory realm was a little unable to hold on any longer, and he could only increase the strength of the illusory realm. Yi Hua was very satisfied with Kei's strength. Coupled with those strange subordinates of hers, they were a pretty good force. Looking at all of the open clouds, it was like the moon hanging in the sky. It really was rather similar. Suddenly, a gigantic eye opened. It was indeed as Yi Zizi had described. It was indeed very frightening. Imagining the moon opening its eyes, it really caused one's scalp to go numb. Haha. You are dead for sure. And you still want me to be a follower? No way. Kai Yun laughed loudly, and that loud and clear voice seemed as if it was transmitted to outer space. Yi Hua asked faintly. Is this all of your strength? What? Did you get scared by me? Let me tell you, I can insta-kill you. You are finished. Facing the gigantic Kai Yun, Yi Hua was just like a small, too insignificant. Insta-kill me? Where did your confidence come from? Yi Hua could be seen clapping his hands. Green-colored Kuan-Li Karma Fire appeared on his left hand, while purple-colored Firmament Ghost Fire appeared on his right hand. Your deviant flames are no longer effective against me. Looking at the 2 types of deviant flames in Yi Hua's hands, Kai Yun was a little worried, wondering if his main body would be able to withstand them. In the past, I felt that deviant flames couldn't be fused, but my daughter did it. Fuse with deviant flames? Haha. What kind of joke are you playing? Kai Yun let out a mocking voice. Fusing with deviant flames was rather dangerous. If one's control was slightly off, one would suffer a backlash. Do I look like someone who jokes around? Hearing Yi Hua's words, Kai Yun's gigantic eye revealed fear. Because, Yi Hua's hands started to close. The hell, we can talk things out. There is no need for you to die together with me. Kai Yun was a little afraid. It's fine if you want to commit suicide, but I still want to play top. Yi Hua ignored him. Kai Yun, who was currently fusing with the deviant flames, was scared to the point that he was trembling. This man is crazy. This man is definitely crazy. Let me be your follower, alright? Don't give up on yourself like this. Isn't it just a fight? Don't kill someone. Chapter 720. Yi Hua glared at Kai Yun furiously. Shut up! Kai Yun lowered his head and pursed his lips, not saying a word. Even if he couldn't, he still had to forcefully fuse with her. It looked like his daughter was even stronger than him. She was really too weak. After who knew how much time had passed, Kai Yun had already fallen asleep while lying in the void. Fusing with otherworldly flames was not something that could be done in a short while. Outside the illusion, everyone was still waiting. Donghuang Baiji was very anxious. Why hasn't my husband appeared yet? If the one who appears first is that flag master. The more Donghuang Baiji thought about it, the more afraid Donghuang Baiji became. If Yi Hua were to know how worried his wife was about him, he would definitely knock on the Empress's forehead. To think that you have so little confidence in me. Go back and serve me in torture. Right now, 5 Flags was really worried about their flag master, wondering if something would happen to him. Especially Yu Hua, she couldn't sit still. Lucifer, who was sitting below, was even more so. If you immortals were to fight, don't drag a mortal like me into it. Lucifer plucked up his courage and said, "About that. I have also finished my meal, and I forgot to turn off the gas at my house. Is it possible?" The impatient Moonlight looked at Lucifer coldly, and the latter was so scared that he trembled. "Get lost!" Yuhua shouted coldly. Hearing Yuehua's words, Lucifer felt that he would be able to go back and turn off the gas today. "All right, scram immediately." Lucifer and Miller didn't even think about it. They immediately spread their wings and flew away without a care for their lives. This meal was really frightening. In the future, it was better to keep a low profile and not stand out. Even if they were strong, they had to hide it. Who knew if there was someone even stronger? Thus, only Voidless Realm and South Wuxia's people were left, and they were waiting anxiously. The sun gradually set, and darkness enveloped the earth. However, they had not come out yet. In the illusory realm, it was still daytime. After all, it was an illusion. The alternation of day and night could not be replicated. Right now, Yihua was still trying to fuse them together, and he did not give up. Kai Yun, who was bored, turned his body sideways and looked at Yihua with his forehead open. From time to time, he would scratch his ears. "Boss, forget it. I won't tell anyone," Kai Yun said softly. This fusion of deviant flames was something that could not be done without a few hundred years. He did not want to lie in this illusion for a few hundred years. "Call me Your Honor," Yihua said indifferently. All right, Your Honor, stop messing around." Kai Yun begged bitterly. He still wanted to increase his score. If he really waited for a few hundred years, would there still be that kind of game? Yihua glared at Kai Yun. "As a subordinate, you should act like a subordinate." "I have never been a subordinate before. How would I know?" Kai Yun pouted his mouth. This is too much of a bully. While Yihua was fusing with the deviant flames, Yihua asked curiously, "How did the two of you get captured?" "Your Honor, are you going to take revenge for me?" Kai Yun's eyes lit up, and he felt that there was hope. "If you perform well, I can consider it." "Really?" Yihua replied casually. Recalling the matters from a long time ago, Kai Yun pouted and said, "We're people from the primordial era." Yihua remained silent and listened attentively. "Your Honor, let me tell you, you have never seen the people from the Great Desolate Era. Every single one of them is extremely ferocious, and they fight and play every day. Furthermore, all of them are the type that don't want to sleep, and furthermore, they don't even have a wheat whirlwind to eat." "Get to the point." A few black lines appeared on Yihua's forehead. "I'm sorry, I was just sighing with emotion. Every single one of the people from the Great Desolate Era are very strong, and they are also very huge. For example, we are only the rulers of a small corner in the south. Although it is only a small corner, it is much bigger than this place." Yihua asked, "What level of strength does the two of you belong to in the Great Desolate Era?" Actually, I'm not too sure either. Let's just talk about that small corner. The distribution of power there is very big, and we are all very powerful existences there. If the two of you are so powerful, how did you get sealed?" Yihua asked curiously. Didn't I say it already? That is only a small corner. I don't know which bastard snitched on us, and then, a group of people came over. We fought with them and forced them to retreat, and then, 3 people came over. In order to protect me, they sealed me, and then they were captured." Kai Yun said angrily. "If those 3 people were still alive, I would definitely kill them. They actually dared to bully my subordinates." "Captured?" Yihua asked curiously. Kai Yun nodded his head. "I heard from them that after they were captured, they were tortured and forced to tell me about my whereabouts. However, they didn't say anything. I'm so touched. However, those people were unable to kill my subordinates, and thus they sealed them up." "Why did they want to capture you?" Yihua was puzzled, feeling that the matter wasn't that simple. "How would I know? In any case, the Great Desolate Era is long gone, and what's left are only some Great Desolate Era's godly beasts and ferocious beasts." Kai Yun spread out his hands, indicating that there was no way for him to find someone to take revenge on. Yihua could be considered to have a rough understanding of the Great Desolate Era. However, the Great Desolate Era was already a thing of the past, and there was no use in understanding it.
That subordinate of yours, if it was in the situation of a vacuum, would he have died?
Yihua asked curiously. When Yihua said this, Kai Yun's expression changed. Looking at Kai Yun's expression, Yihua knew that he had guessed correctly. Although that Yihua is in the form of water, if she is sucked by Yi Zizi, she should also die, right? There's also that Luo Ho. Yihua said one after another, causing Kai Yun to feel very bad, as if Yihua had caught hold of his weakness. Seeing that Kai Yun was unhappy, Yihua said calmly, "In the future, they will all be my subordinates. I naturally won't harm them, and I will keep this a secret for you." Really? Your Honor. Can you keep this a secret? Kai Yun said excitedly.
Towards his subordinates, Kai Yun was especially protective, and this could be seen from the matter that he reminded Luo Ho.
I never lie, Yihua said solemnly. However, Kai Yun believed Yihua. Your Honor, then, can you tell me, why are you so powerful? Kai Yun asked curiously. He also wanted to increase his strength. Only then would he be able to protect his subordinates. Yihua let out a light breath, then said calmly, "If you are able to watch Calabash Brothers save Grandpa for 12 hours a day and persevere for 3 years, you will also be able to become as powerful as me." Calabash Brothers save Grandpa? What is that? I want to watch it too. Kai Yun was very excited. Is it that simple? To express that I can do it too. However, Kai Yun did not even manage to persevere for a week. I can't bear to watch it anymore. Watching the same thing every single time is simply a type of torture. When the time comes, I will go out and tell you.
Your Honor, you are the best.
Kai Yun said happily. Yihua was a little gratified. It's good that you know. I treat my subordinates very well, and I often pull strings for them. Chapter 721. Yihua felt that it was better not to harm the good girl. Do you still not know about Lai Gu's personality? He liked everyone he saw. Back then, he loved those 3 celebrities to death. Now that it had been a long time, it was boring. It was a common problem for men. Seeing Yuhua's ability, how could he not jump? Although I should take care of my subordinates, but right now, Yuehua is also my subordinate, I can't harm Yuehua. Yuehua is such a good girl, but for the sake of my boss, she was tortured and extorted, yet she didn't reveal a single word. Such a woman is a good woman. Letting Lai Gu marry him was truly a bit of a loss. Wei Chong, that kind of honest and sincere person, was more like it. Honorable Lai Gu. Is Lai Gu such a person in your heart? Lai Gu is so sad, I really want to cry. No wonder your honor didn't help Lai Gu and gave it to someone else. Yihua paused for a moment. Forget about this, let them do as they please. Your honor, are you really not going to consider it? Yuehua is very family-oriented, and she's a good woman. She's worth 100 men. Kai Yun was practically like a salesman, trying his best to promote the moonlight flower. Especially when he said that one could be used for 100 times. Even I was a little moved. However, upon thinking about the 2 shrews and the sister-in-law that I have at home, I decided to forget about it. I, the Supreme Overlord, don't have the time to quarrel with them. Furthermore, it is because of a strange woman that I am not familiar with. All right, this matter ends here. Don't mention it again. I'm really a bit envious of Ali's talent. As expected of the child born from my bloodline and the Eastern Emperor's bloodline. Since young, Ali has always been a bug. Kai Yun even wanted to sell Moonlight to his honor, but I feel that his honor doesn't like Moonlight at all. If Yu Hua knew that her flag owner was trying so hard to promote her, she would definitely cry in anger. Your honor, do you have any other subordinates? Shut up. Yes, in the future, speak less, and do more. Yi Hua reminded. This Kai Yun is too talkative. Oh, got it. Kai Yun lowered her head and circled around Yi Hua. Her small mouth was smacking, seemingly wanting to move a lot. Looking at Kai Yun's appearance, Yi Hua said helplessly, "Speak. Your honor, what is your blood type? Your honor, what is your zodiac sign? Your honor, what animals do you like? Your honor, what do you like to eat for supper? Your honor, do you like to eat crayfish?" Yi Hua. Under this kind of environment, Yi Hua was already unable to concentrate. Both of his hands immediately separated from each other and kept the 2 balls of deviant fire. His heart was filled with unwillingness. The fusion of the deviant flame was too difficult. Could it be because of his bloodline? Ali possessed 2 types of bloodlines and easily fused the deviant flame. His honor, aren't you going to fuse with it? Kai Yun cried out in surprise, and had a joyous look on his face. His honor has finally given up. This is simply too great. Forget it, I will fuse with it next time. I have another trump card up my sleeves.
Yi Hua said faintly, and a strong sense of confidence burst forth from his body.
This stunned Kai Yun. There was actually something more powerful than strange fire. Your honor, what kind of trump card is it? Can you tell me? Kai Yun asked curiously.
You will know in the future.
Of course, Yi Hua wouldn't tell Kai Yun about it. In fact, even his subordinates and his wife didn't know about it. This was an ability that he had obtained after his rebirth. It was so terrifying that even the main body was afraid of it. I, the Supreme Overlord, will never lie. Along with Yi Hua waving his hand, the illusion suddenly disappeared, and the 2 of them appeared in South Wuxia. When Donghuang Baiji saw that her husband had come out from the illusion, she immediately became extremely excited. Those few hours felt like a few years to her. I don't want to feel like this anymore. It is too scary. Yi Hua looked at Donghuang Baiji, who was running with tears of joy. Yi Hua slightly opened his arms and hugged onto Donghuang Baiji. Yi Hua, kiss me. Donghuang Baiji wasn't shy and took the initiative to say. Yi Hua naturally wouldn't disappoint his wife and kissed onto Donghuang Baiji's soft cherry lips. When Kai Yun saw his honor and his wife hugging and kissing each other, he pouted his mouth. Flagmaster, how is the situation? Yu Hua asked concernedly while hugging onto the flagmaster.
This flagmaster made a small mistake,
Kai Yun said while stammering.
He was a bit embarrassed. I actually lost.
Furthermore, I lost along with my subordinates. This is so depressing.
Yu Hua let out a sigh of relief. It's good that you are fine. It doesn't matter even if you lost. If Yu Hua were to find out that the flagmaster had strongly recommended her in the illusion just now, she would definitely be angry. But I have a bet with him. If I were to lose, I would have to.
Kai Yun, this clever little fellow, started tricking his subordinates.
Flagmaster, it doesn't matter. We will forever be your subordinates.
Yu Hua said respectfully.
Bai Gu, who was at the back, also said respectfully, we will forever follow Flagmaster.
We pledge our loyalty to you.
Luo Ho shouted out in a low voice. I will forever follow Flagmaster.
The scarecrow Kwang Sha followed up and said, Vow.
Song Kong Hong said slowly. Kai Yun hurriedly stopped Song Kong Hong. Little Red, I know what you want to say. Song Kong Hong revealed out a grateful expression. Just that, her face was truly ugly. Her facial features looked as if they were squeezed together. You all, come over here for a moment. We have to discuss a matter. We have to turn the tables.
Kai Yun suddenly had a good idea.
Right now, Yi Hua had already kissed the Empress to the point that her mind was in a mess. If there was a bed, Yi Hua would have definitely gotten onto it. Yi Hua, in the future, don't make me wait like this.
Donghuang Baiji said tenderly.
Fool, don't you know my strength? I knew that you liked to act cool. I'm just afraid that you will end up getting F***ed instead. Yi Hua, this is a ridicule from my wife, and it is practically a critical hit. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and slapped towards the Empress's perky butt. Papa! This time, the Empress was finally embarrassed, and she buried her devastatingly beautiful face into her husband's embrace. You are really asking for a lesson, to even dare to ridicule your husband. I, the Supreme Overlord, have never been F***ed instead when I act cool. Standing on the spot, Yi Hua looked at Kai Yun. Shouldn't you bring your subordinates over to pay respect to me? Looking at her husband's posture, Donghuang Baiji knew that Yi Hua had won. My man is too strong. Donghuang Baiji felt like she was being surrounded by a wave of happiness. If I regretted going to that bar a few years ago, then I was lucky right now. Back then, I walked into that bar, had a one-night stand with Yi Hua, and got together with Ali. Thinking about these things, Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but reveal out a light smile. Fate, this thing, who can say for sure? In the end, I still ended up walking together with Yi Hua.
Although Yihua has all the bad habits that men have, Yihua is also changing himself. The main point is that Yihua loves me, and that is enough. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.